some help. Yeah, he's got some projects and stuff that he's still working on. He's got some, so he still works like on average, I think. He's still so maybe 62 this year. Like our health insurance, which the health insurance is going to have to go up. Because we're finding out we will eat his
You don't need me to gavel in. You already looked at the clock and decided it was 6:30. I'll just do it anyway. Welcome to the, I'd like to call to order the Board of Education meeting of Saline Area Schools on April 23rd, 2024 at 6:30. Standing as you're able, please, we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance led by Brad Gerby.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Let me just get set up. I was just a minute late myself. We have a couple of very important people to recognize this evening, and I'm going to pass the microphone over to Superintendent Lodge.
Thank you very much, President McVeigh. We're going to be starting with Tim Tomosik and the Auto Tech program and talking about 36 years of education and a wonderful career. So this is something compiled by Tim that I want to read that really showcases his importance in education and the school district. And as he's getting ready to retire, we just want to thank him and the wonderful program that he has instilled here in the Saline area schools. So we're going to start with, first, a little history. I completed my student teaching at Saline High School in the fall of 1987. My cooperating teacher, Greg Barrissey, was very influential in my teaching techniques. After graduating from Eastern Michigan University, I took a job at Lincoln Park High School. After a semester at Lincoln Park, I began to look for a new job. As it turns out, Greg Barrissey took a job as an administrator at the William D. Ford Vocational Tech Center. Greg called and informed me that this position was going to open up. After a couple weeks, I applied for the automotive technology teacher position and interviewed with Saline High School principal Paul Tebow and David Maris, the vocational director for the SWWC consortium. At the same time, I had job offers from GM and L'Anse Creuse Public Schools. I called Mr. Tebow and let him know my situation, but told him that my first choice was Saline. The issue was that the superintendent, Maury Kahn, was on vacation. Mr. Tebow called me back later that same evening and offered me the job. I'm probably the only teacher at Saline area schools that has never interviewed with the superintendent or the human resources director. I was asked to write about the successes in the automotive technology program. I've been successful at Saline High School because I was surrounded by, and still are, outstanding people. Carl Roscoe was my assistant for 34 years. Carl and I had a working relationship that was second to none. In addition, Mary Holly Wiesel, who has been the Special Populations Coordinator for 17 years. Mary has been instrumental in helping many of my students to the graduation finish line. I would be remiss if I didn't mention the 6 career technical directors that allowed me to operate my program the way that I believe best educated my students. The automotive technology competition highlights over the years have been numerous. We've been very successful in the Skills USA competitions. We've had over 41 state winners and 8 national contestants, several of which have placed in the top 10 in the nation. My favorite competition was the Ford AAA Students Auto Skills Competition. Students in this competition must first pass a written exam to be eligible for the hands-on portion of the contest. To prepare for the state finals, we would borrow a brand new vehicle from Briarwood Ford in Saline. Former state finalists and advisory committee members would help me bug the car to prepare the students for the hands-on contest. Over the years, SWWC won 7 state titles. At the national level, we placed top 10 in the nation 5 times, and we placed second in the nation twice. 2 activities that I'm most proud of are Adopt a Family program that we've participated in for the last 20 years. My students have raised enough money to adopt over 30 families since 2004. The activity has had the most influence on my students is the AES Automotive Youth Education System program. This program allows automotive technology students to enter an internship program with a local dealership after they've completed the Automotive Technology 1 program. Students work full-time with a master technician during the entire summer break. Upon return to the school in the fall, students are required to enroll in the Automotive Technology 2 program and co-op education. The goal is to have students find a meaningful career and continue their education. I want to thank Saline area schools for the opportunity to influence students in a positive way for the last 36 years. So with that said, I'd like to bring Tim Tomosic and any of his former students, current staff members up to the microphone to say a few words, and then we want to get a picture with the Board of Education. You'd toggle it on.
I think it is on green. Who's going first? Go ahead. All right. My name's Ryan Hastings. I think I graduated in 2011. I'm actually supposed to be staying up here with my wife that I met in auto class.
Auto Tech Law.
Yeah. I was part of the AYES program. I worked at LaFontaine, Saline there for 3 or 4 years. I participated in the Skills USA and Ford AAA. I think I was first in the state in both. I don't remember what I think it was like 10th in the nation for Ford AAA. I don't remember what the Skills USA, Tomosic probably remembers. I forgot about that a long time ago. Tomosic was a big influence in my life. He helped me out a lot, especially with all the automotive competitions. Helped me get the job at Saline there. More or less, the automotive program itself was huge. So I'm not trying, if you guys ever want to try to get rid of that, I'll come back and speak again, because I think I gave him a lot of hell over the phone because he won't keep working for another 15 years so he can teach my daughter. But, yeah, I have an associate's degree through Washington Community College. It was free. I won that through all those automotive competitions. I'm trying to think of what else. I won at least $20,000 worth of tools. There's a bunch of stuff that I can trace back to that automotive program, and I would like to not see it go away. And a lot of it goes to, he is dedicated, probably more dedicated than he should be, and I think was pretty good at getting underneath his skin. That was like my little hobby, but yeah. So after I left the dealership, I went and worked for a family friend for a little while. I went and worked at GM doing engine development for like 5 or 6 years. Now I own my own automotive shop in Manchester. My wife and I run it together. We've been doing that for a little over 5 years. So pretty much everything as far as my career goes, I can trace back to those classes. Easily, if you picked one, I had a lot of good teachers, but if I could pick one teacher that influenced my life the most, it would be that guy. He did drive me nuts a lot, but it was worth it. So I think the feeling's mutual. Yeah, so I think that's it.
Hello, so my name is John Graveman. I'm also a former student from
Mr. Tomosik's class from a while back. I don't know if I care to date myself and say how far back, but it's been a while. So I did graduate in '99, being a former student. Competed in Skills USA, for AAA, although we didn't go to states that year. I'd rather not talk about that either. It wasn't my fault. I got the test score. It wasn't me. So I graduated '99, went on to college, went to Western Michigan University with a bachelor's degree. Got a job straight out of there as an engineer. So I got my bachelor's in mechanical engineering. Worked in the auto industry for a while, then also went back to University of Michigan and got my master's degree. Professional engineering license as well. Been working now at Ford Motor Company for the last 11 years, so 20 years in the industry, automotive industry in various places. Trying to think what else. Oh, I actually still have, surprisingly enough, my ASE certifications. So if things don't go well in the auto industry and engineering, I can always go back to being a mechanic again, and actually have done that on several occasions. All thanks to Mr. Tomosik and the education that he provided. I can second Mr. Hastings' comments on his passion for the industry fuels a lot of us, and I'm sure it plays a huge role in I've seen it shaping a number of the folks that have gone through the program. I'm also a member of his advisory committee. I am one of the folks that has helped bug those cars for many years, and I think many of us were very disappointed to see that program unfortunately dissolve a bit, the Ford AAA skills contest. But we're hoping it makes a comeback because we have a great time bugging those cars too. But so seeing a lot of the young men that he's and women, that he's brought up through the program, he's done a tremendous job, and he's been a huge asset. So big shoes to fill for whoever may come their way. But thank you. Oh, and I have kids coming my way. We're coming here starting in Saline schools, so keep up the good work.
Let's hear a round of applause for that.
3 of them. Yeah.
Justin Sly, 2013 graduate of the program. I was AYS intern through the program, competed in Ford AAA, made it to states. We competed in Skills USA for 2 years, had a great time. Went on to further my education at Ferris State. I think one of the really clear things you notice when you're sitting there that the impact that Mr. Tomosik's class had was how much further advanced you are than your peers. And not only that, but in the real world, working at the dealership, had a 5-year career there, and you realize when there's other folks your age that come in, they're still kicking tires while you're pulling engines and transmissions. And that really goes to show how, if you take it seriously, how much Mr. Tomosik enabled you to really learn it and go with it. So, and then had a great 6-year career at General Motors ever since. So, thank you.
I'm Addison Nabek, and I was supposed to be here with my dad today. I'm currently a student of Mr. Tomosik. My dad was also a student of Mr. Tomosik's, and he now runs a successful diesel mechanic. He has his own company, worked at Varsity Ford for, 14, 16 years, and now he has his own shop in Clinton and runs his diesel shop. So I know he's got a lot of good things to say about Mr. Tomosik, and I sure thank him for all of the times he's encouraged us to keep going in class, and yeah.
I had to write down some notes because I'll forget everything. So, my name's Jeff Sparrow. I graduated from Saline in 2000. I was in Mr. Tomosik's program for 2 years, from 98 to 2000. I participated in Skills USA and made it to nationals for AAA. Mr. Tomosik's teaching prepared me for the next 4 years that I spent at Ferris State University, where I got my bachelor's in heavy equipment manufacturing. And then I was hired directly from Ferris by Cummins Engine Company, where I'm still employed 20 years later as a power generation technician. Here I am many years after graduation with my son Andrew, who is now a junior at Chelsea High School and in his first year in the auto program with the same great guy. I'm sure Andrew and his classmates are a little bummed that they won't have Mr. Tomolsik next year. But no doubt they will use the skills that he has given them for the rest of their lives. There are many other stories like you've heard that are similar to mine that prove what a good can come out of this program and what Mr. Tomolsik has built it into. Just want to say thank you and wish you all the best in the future. Thank you.
I am Andrew Spera, his son. This is my first year in the auto program, and I've always heard great things about Tomosik even before I was in his program, and I can say that those things are all true. He's a great guy. He always pushes us to be the best that we can. He gives us a hard time, but he's never going to let us take the easy way out, and I appreciate that because I don't know, I went to States for Skills last weekend or the weekend before, and Tomosik helped me all the way through there. He helped me place third in regionals, and there's some stuff that Tomosik taught us on the first week that other people didn't know how to do, and it really advances us in the industry of auto. So yeah, I really appreciate what Tomosik has done for the program, even though I am 1 year student, but we'll be sad to see him go.
So Andrew's interesting. I did interview a lot of students last year. And when I interviewed Andrew, one of the questions I have is, what makes you special? Why should I let you in my program? What makes you better than anybody else? Andrew's the only one that answered the question this way. And his answer was, I'm not. I'm not special. I'm no better than anybody else. And I'm like, you're in. Because, and I had his dad. So, I mean, he had kind of an inside track anyway. I was really hoping that Matt and Nabet could have been here because I was really trying to get the kind of the two-generation thing going here. I've been here so long that this has happened not once, not twice, but I can't even count on the number of fingers that this has happened now. Where I've had their son or their daughter, and now I have their kid. And I always get the same question. So how is my dad or how is my mom? Oh, they were great. When in fact I might be lying a little bit. Okay. I was telling Dr. Lotch today that I'm doing some other work in other districts right now, and you get kind of spoiled working with the people that you work with day in and day out. And I'm working in a particular district that they've got an enormous amount of teachers that are permitted teachers that can't pass their certification test. Your teaching group here is second to none. It truly is. We were negotiating here the other morning. I've spent a lot of quality time here in this building. And we were talking about attendance. And I was defending teachers, and somebody called me a unicorn. And my quick response back to them was, I am not a unicorn. You have very, very educated staff here, and very staff that wants to be here, that wants to do a good job, that wants to educate kids. And that's my job. My job has always been, I was taught very early on about work ethic. Go to work. You better be really sick not to go to work. And some days I'm like, maybe if I go to work and I kind of spread around a little bit, it makes my job easier. I'm okay with that, So go to work, do your job, do the best job you can. And ultimately, you're always trying to remember is it's always you're doing the best job you can for those kids because they're the future. I'm leaving. You got to pass it on. And I kept on telling my first year kids because I feel bad, that I'm leaving. I would love to go back to my second year class next year. All the kids that are coming back from my second year class, about 22 kids, they're all great kids, nice, good kids. And I'd love to come back just for that class because I know them all. And I did tell them kind of as the year was going on, because I told them early on I was retiring, I said, I will not leave you if I can't find somebody good to replace me. And hopefully tonight you will okay the person that has applied, that are candidates. And I had an advisory committee meeting the other night, and I could not tell these people that we had hired somebody, because we haven't, because you have to approve them. So hopefully that happens tonight. And I think that the future is very, very bright for the program. I'm excited. I've told this person that I will come back. Just call me. And like Kara Stemmer, my new boss, number 6. And I love Kara. I didn't even try to count the number of principals I've had, okay? I did the superintendents, I did my vocational directors, but my CTE directors, but not the principals, because that's a lot. I love Kara because she's all about process and procedure. She's about rules and that kind of stuff, and we work real well together then. And she's going to do a great job here. People like Mary Wiesel and my assistant Carl and those kind of people, they make me better. I mean, I'm a good, decent teacher, but those people around me make it much better. When I was union president, I had a great VP. I had a great treasurer. I had all those people around me, and it just made me better. So, again, I'm going to thank you, the school board, Dr. Lodge, and everybody in the school board, and thank you again for the time that I got to spend here at Saline High School. Thank you very much. Yep.
Okay, let's get everybody up for a picture.
Now put tall people in the back. Sometimes this happens, and it was easy to go because he lives one street to the west of me in Manchester, okay? I could have walked it, right? So I go there, and I'm like, that was the student. That was the student. So then I go to Mary because I don't remember all these kids' names. You always remember the really good ones and the really bad ones. You don't remember the kids who are just decent.
Most of them were the bad ones.
So as it turns out, there were 13 of my former students at this wedding. So before they were all drunk, I got a big shot of all of them, and it sits prominently on my desk at home.
Okay, I'm just going to head to the next one. And on to our next legend, Dave Meller. Dave is also retiring this year, and he's done just a tremendous job with our agriculture program. And so we're going to start with all of these accolades, awards, accomplishments that their program has achieved over just this year and a half, and it's impressive. So if we start at the national level, in July of 2023, the ag program at Saline High School was listed as the 5th best ag program in the United States and first place in Michigan by the Ag Experience Tracker of Texas A&M University. Also received bronze in the National Food Science and Technology team, and Isabella Emmerich got an American FFA degree. At the state level, at Summer State Skills Contest in 2023, we start with the state tractor driving team. Nathan Dubnicki was state winner in Garden Tractor Division. Jackson Shibley was state runner-up in the Garden Tractor Division. William Rogers was state runner-up in Zero-Turn Mower Division. And Henry Schneider was state runner-up in Utility Tractor and Trailer Division. Fast forward to the fall of 2023. At the Michigan Broiler Contest, state runner-up for 9th grade ag biology class with 6 gold entries and 3 silver entries. Then in spring of 2024, at Michigan FFA State Convention, we talk about March State FFA degrees. Addison Abeck, which I had a chance to see at Michigan State, was state runner-up in the Star State Farmer. Peyton Klein, 5th place, state star in ag placement, and 12 state FFA degrees with 6 free college credits at MSU. The State Outstanding Junior Awards. William Rogers, 3rd place for State Outstanding Junior Award, 19 total State Outstanding Junior Awards. And for State Proficiency Awards at Work-Based Experience, the state winner was Addison Abeck in Diversified Livestock Production Proficiency. The state winner, Abigail Road in Agri-Science Research Proficiency. 7 Gold Proficiency Awards, 12 Silver Proficiency Awards, and 6 Bronze Proficiency Awards. At State Leadership Contest, State Bronze with the demonstration team for farm safety. State Bronze, Job Interview Contest, Kendall Mickey. State Bronze, Kendall Livingston, FFA Creed Speaking Contest. At the Arthur Berkey State Agri-Science Research Contest, the state winner for plant science research, Max Gierbaugh and Ryan Feldkamp. State second, John Ronayne, plant science research. State winner, Lola Stacy and Lila Nabeck in animal science research. State second, Audrey Wallen and Belle Schiltz. That was in animal science. State winner of Logan Haley and Cole Yarger in environmental research. State winner in Abigail Road in environmental research. State second place, Marky Gerard Wooten in food science research. And a state second place, Kendall Livingston and Savannah Iverson in food science research. And then we have the state FFA band, Carmen Cunningham on flute, and the state FFA choir, Carmela Gatto, Olivia Hafner, and Marky Gerard Wooten. And the Spring State Skills Career Development events for MSU on Friday, April 19th, we're awaiting the results for 14 teams. That was just this year and a half, and you can imagine over Dave's career, there were many, many, many awards. So with that said, we want to invite up Dave Meller and his students, and they're going to say a few words, and then we're going to take another picture because we're excited for hearing more about your experience. So you can just start with.
I'm Gavin Mail, senior at Saline High School, and I thought I'd talk about how Mr. Miller has affected my life. So FFA has made my high school career the most enjoyable it can be. From state and national conventions to chapter events and meetings, there's always been something going on that has brought memories I will cherish for the rest of my life. Mr. Miller has made this all happen. He has always pushed everyone to do their best, from making sure we turn in our award applications and updating our AET records, to telling us to fill out a chapter officer application. Even though we don't think we're the best fit, Mr. Miller always saw something in us that he knew would be great for the chapter. Saline FFA has brought me so many opportunities. For the past 3 years, I have been able to achieve 2 silver and 1 gold proficiency awards in turf grass and landscape management. My outstanding junior degree, my Region 2 Star Award in agricultural placement, and my state FFA degree. I've been on the officer team for the past 3 years as Sentinel, Vice President, and now Student Advisor. I have participated in job interview contests and meets judging contests for the past 3 years as well. I will truly miss the time I've spent in FFA, but I will always remember the time I've spent in this organization and keep those memories with me for the rest of my life.
Hello, my name is Allison Finkbeiner. I am a senior at Saline High School, and I have been in the ag classes for all 4 years of that. Mr. Miller has pushed us to do things that we usually wouldn't be comfortable with, especially when it comes to public speaking. I was in the Creed contest where I went to state level. And just being in this class, you think it would only teach you about agriculture, but not only has it taught me about agriculture, it's taught me about lifelong skills like how to talk to people and how to be professional and how to speak to a group of people such as yourselves. I also got second nationally with the science fair, and I wouldn't have done that if it weren't for Miller pushing me, so I'm glad that we have such a great teacher here to push us to do things and grow academically and just as people ourselves. Thank you.
I'm Addison Nabek. I'm currently the Saline FFA chapter president, and I would just like to thank Mr. Meller for a wonderful last 4 years. He, as Allie and Gavin both said, has pushed us to do things that we normally probably wouldn't have done. He saw something in us that we didn't even see in ourselves, and he made sure that we got our AET records done as much as we didn't want to do them. And they paid off in the end because I got a star finalist in Star Farmer this year and a gold state degree and a state winner degree. So thank you to Mr. Meller for the past 4 years. The people and the memories I've made and the lessons I've learned, I will cherish for the rest of my life.
I'm William Rogers from the Saline FFA chapter, and I've been the former reporter and vice president of our chapter, and next year I'm going to be the president. FFA has really impacted me more than any other subject in school has overall. I remember my first year I started when I was a freshman. I was just kind of messing around and having fun in the class, and then he got me to do public speaking, which I didn't really want to do, but I got 4th in the state, and then I realized I actually have to start trying now. So then I kept going at that, and I've got a lot of awards throughout the years. And he's pushed me to become a regional officer this year for Region 2 in Michigan. So I was the Sentinel, and this year coming back, we're finding out this weekend, but I'm most likely president or vice president of our region. And then this year I'm also running as a state officer. So Mr. Meller's really impacted that a lot. I also got to be on the food science team this year at Nationals, which was really interesting and cool. And Mr. Meller wanted me to show off some of the awards just from this year so that everyone can kind of understand what each student gets to do. So this year, I got gold in raisin broilers, and I got 3rd in the state out of all the juniors for our records. We also, like many of our students received, I received gold and silver proficiency degrees in diversified livestock and crop production. And also received the silver academic excellence, and that's for our grades and GPA overall. And a lot of our students participated in that, and they all received a lot of awards. And one thing about Mr. Meller that's different than a lot of teachers is I feel like he's like part of your family even outside of school. He's like an extra grandpa if you need one. And he's there for the good times and the bad times, whether we're walking across stage at the state convention winning awards, or like this year we sadly had a former member pass away and we had to attend a funeral. But that's what makes the FFA special, is because we're more of a family than a class. So I think Mr. Meller is a great teacher, and the next teacher better be a quarter of as good as he is. So.
Hello, my name is Carmen Cunningham, and I'm a current student of Mr. Meller's. So in the 8th grade, I loved riding horses. That's my passion. I've been doing it for over 6 years. And when I joined this class, it kind of changed everything for me. So whenever I ride horses, I was very dedicated, and I didn't have a lot of time to reach out to friends. And so I was very limited in the people that I talked to. I probably only had 4 friends. And then I joined this class, and I kind of found a family that I wasn't expecting to find. It was really special to me because I felt like I had a place that I belonged now, and I was really excited, and I didn't want to let that go. I also really enjoyed Meller's class just because he's very silly, he's fun, he's engaged in everyone, and is very dedicated to everyone and wants everyone to do well. I've also had the unique opportunity to participate in many different competitions that I would not have otherwise done. Before I was not really excited about public speaking, and then I did the prepared public speaking this year and then Creed last year. And I made it all the way to states last year with Creed, which was something that I never thought would have happened because public speaking scared me very much. That was like one of my biggest fears. And Mr. Meller helped me look past that and realize that I could do it. And then I also was able to get second in the state for my skills contest in milk judging last year, which was also something that I was not expecting. I was very unsure because it was my first year and I didn't know what to expect, but it was very reassuring to see that if I put in the work that I could do well. And it's all because of Mr. Meller. I'm gonna miss you a lot.
Wow, all those accolades. Anyway, to finish up the list there, we did get some results for the state contest just before this started. And Tim will be very happy that we're second in the state for nursery landscape. So there's some and Carmen picked up 5th in the state in dairy quality judging, and the team did too. We're waiting for several contests, but those are the first 2 we've gotten results on. So that's how we probably will have some more to report to you. But I just like to say that it's been a privilege, a pleasure.
We'll just wipe our own tears just a wee bit. After judging the several FFA competitions and going to all their banquets, those kids are great. I love every one of them that I've had a chance to know.
I'd like to invite all the school board members to our next banquet, which will be Monday, May 13th at 6:30.
All right, we'll be there. Public comment section. A member of the public may address the board briefly for up to 3 minutes or request to be scheduled on the agenda of a future meeting. Please note that students will be given priority to speak on any topic. The first public participation portion of the meeting will be limited to 1/2 hour, 30 minutes normally, and limited to agenda items. A second public participation portion will be offered at the end of the agenda to allow for any other comment. Individuals addressing the board should take into consideration the rules of common courtesy. Public participation of the meeting cannot be used to make personal attacks against a board member, district employee, or student. Thank you. And we have 3 so far. I think that's just 3. David Hayward, followed by Tiffany Alexander, and I'll just read the whole list. Amy Teslin. That's your 1, 2, 3. And you are ready to, Secretary Miller has got her time cards. I know you've done this before, so we won't review those rules.
I think I know the rules. This comment concerns the agenda item because the policy committee is on the agenda. At the March 12th meeting, or 6 weeks ago, there was a discussion, which I know everyone on the board is aware of, concerning the role that Neola plays or may play in the writing of policy guidelines. I've been, as the board is well aware, I've been trying to get some answers regarding what role Neola does or does not play in this procedure for the last 6 weeks. Part of my comment is just to get this read into the public domain. And this is, I want to make it clear, this is not, my interest in this is not some piece of trivia or some kind of gotcha question. But this concerns the fact that it's been nearly 2 years now since the transgender and non-binary student policy was passed by this board, and it has gone unimplemented for almost 3 years. And this issue about Neola being involved in writing the guidelines is appears to be one more in a long line of reasons for delaying this implementation. At the recommendation of this board, the transparent group in the last 6 weeks has sought out consultation with numerous stakeholders, including a number of students who did inform us of many significant problems which have made the urgency of adopting these guidelines all the more obvious. Significant problems including shortcomings in record keeping that are leading to persistent dead naming of students who have been forced to use accommodations contrary to their gender identity during field trips, and students who feel that they have to hide their identity in certain classes because they fear that there are specific teachers who will engage in harassment against them. These are all things that these are the reasons that this board adopted this policy almost 3 years ago. And because of the lack of guidelines, these things have still not been dealt with. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hayward.
I almost tripped over my purse. That would have been funny for everybody, except me. So I'm here, and I guess actually it does fall under policy, but I was actually thinking of it as under the threat assessment. My layperson's understanding of threat assessment means danger to others or danger to yourself. I already know this board is well aware that the trans community has one of, if not the highest suicide rates in the entire country. And that is doubly so for students. So what's the better way to ensure that trans students do not harm themselves as a school district than to pass a policy supporting trans students? Well, that was a long-fought policy. You guys did pass it. You passed it unanimously. Not everybody in this district, including not every single admin, wanted that passed. It was hard fought. People fought really hard to get that done. But the board did. The board unanimously embraced it. Now we are almost 3 years in, and we have things going on in the classroom, such as was previously mentioned, students who are dead named and students who dead name themselves because they know that that teacher will out them. These are not my words. These are words of students, of which some of you have heard. And yet here we are, no guidelines. So I understand this work takes time. I understand very well because I've done the work. So a bunch of people came together and they used the exact same content that the policy was made from to create guidelines, along with peer-reviewed articles, information from parents, teachers, admin, students, to create a very respectable body of work that there are now 4 different ways to access. 2 slideshows, one specifically for teachers, one very big, long document that apparently the fact that it's long is somewhat problematic, so that's fine. There is now one that will be much shorter. And yet we have no guidelines. And despite the fact that these are now being presented, we still have no idea when we're going to be able to relay this information to you or to concerned parties or stakeholders. So at this point, as a parent of a non-binary student, I'm led to actually question, how many of you up there actually want this passed? I have no other choice but to ask, are you really dedicated to getting these guidelines passed and this policy implemented? Because after 3 years, it hasn't been done. And the excuse of that, well, we have this other company that's doing them, and we can't get a response after 6 weeks. And if this is something that this company does, which the company is apparently under the idea that they don't, it seems to me that thank you. So it seems to me that my concern is now with, is the board willing to implement its own policy?
Thank you, President McVeigh and the Saline Area School Board trustees. Today I am speaking as a concerned parent on the topic of threat assessment. We all know the stakes, the high stakes involved. I hate that our schools have to deal with this. My daughter has nightmares about it after every drill. When I worked at Pleasant Ridge as a dishwasher, I was able to participate in 2 trainings with respect to school shootings. The first was in my orientation, which involved role playing, and the second, a few years later, was focused on prevention. The expert trainer explained that once there is an active school shooter, it's almost too late. The most well-researched preventative measures involved creating a school climate where students felt they were supported and that they belonged. I have looked over many research papers since, and these conclusions are similar. I recommend that Saline area schools takes guidance and training from experts on this very serious topic as they have in the past. Saline area schools has many amazing teachers, staff, and administrators. They are devoted and care deeply about the students, as we heard tonight. And many, many more. But they aren't experts at everything. How could they be? There are so many things that they don't have the resources to handle. I worry about the pressure on our teachers and our administrators to be perfect or have perfect schools or perfect classrooms. This can lead to a culture where things are hidden and fester and become a breeding ground for future violence and harm. Sadly, and not unique to Saline area schools, my heart breaks knowing that many Saline area school students do not feel like they belong, often based on incidents of bullying and suspensions. I implore the board and the district to objectively assess where Saline area schools is succeeding and where Saline area school needs help, expertise, and resources. Our students' lives depend on it.
Thank you very much. There is no response to previous public comment from last week's meeting, but since there are 3 comments this week, I really suspect that I'll have something to say in 2 weeks' time. Thank you. We are now at the revisions approval of the agenda. Items can be added or deleted from the agenda, and the order can be changed. At the request of an individual board member or the superintendent, the agendas must be approved before proceeding further. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the agenda as printed.
I would like to make a revision.
Alrighty.
I am requesting that we add a discussion item, so that would be 9 discussion item B, regarding board seeking legal services and the process with that.
Just writing it down. Sorry, board seeking legal services, is that what you said?
Yes.
And there was another part, but I think I've got it. All right. Process, all right, process. Or process. All right, thank you. So I'd like to entertain a motion then to approve the agenda as revised.
Do you need a second on the motion?
I need a motion first. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the agenda as revised. It doesn't sound like anyone is willing to entertain that addition, so perhaps there might be another, unless I should just wait a bit longer.
So you're suggesting nobody's,
I'm sorry?
so you're asking whether anybody wants to put that, add to the agenda?
It sounds like there's no motion to approve the agenda as
Well, I will motion.
revised. Okay. Do we have a support? Okay. Well, that being the case, then Trustee Easton, what I'm going to recommend then is you and I communicate with each other and we,
Oh, I'll communicate during my board updates.
okay, let's do it the right way then. If you could communicate with me regarding what it is you want to discuss, and maybe we can find.
I have, Michael.
Excuse me, I'm going to just finish, and then we can, well, no, I've got a sentence I'd like to get to the end of. Then we can figure out a next step to make sure that your concern is addressed formally by the board, okay? So we go back then, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the agenda as printed.
So moved, Stebbin.
Support, Kirby.
Gerby, all right, thank you very much. All in favor, please, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Me.
All right, well, 6-1 then. Thank you. Tonight, we have as per tradition now, I'm going to ask our student representatives to introduce the student showcase.
Tonight's student showcase is about the Saline High School's World Language Conference. The presenters are Juliana Marini and Ethan Hornberger, and their advisors Beth Gregonis.
Hi, I'm Beth Gregonis. I teach Spanish at the high school, and I'm the World Language Department Chair and also the advisor for Spanish Club. We hosted a conference for world language teachers at the high school this weekend, and we had teachers from across the country come. We were assisted by Spanish Club and our student leaders, Ethan and Juliana, and they are going to tell you a little bit about the conference and then share a portion of the presentation they presented during one of the sessions of the conference.
Okay, hi. Wait, how do you? Oh. Okay, so my name is Juliana, and I am a junior at Saline High School. I play varsity lacrosse and ice hockey, and I am a member of the Spanish Club and Student Council. So I've been a part of the Spanish program since my freshman year and have been a leader of this club since about the end of my freshman year as well.
My name's Ethan Hornberger. I'm a junior at Saline High School as well. I'm on the cross country and lacrosse team as well as student council, and I've been in the Spanish program all throughout high school and even since first grade. We're both in AP Spanish currently and had Ms. Gregones for Spanish 4.
So now we're going to tell you a little bit about the conference we presented at, which is CI in the Mitten. So this conference had 225 teacher participants from 12 states, and 8 languages were represented. Our Spanish Club helped facilitate and organize this, and I helped facilitate and organize last year as well, but this year Spanish Club really stepped up. And this was our first year with student presenters, which was Ethan and I, and the conference helps fund our program, and yeah. Well, that's
We also would like to mention that Chef Danielle and the SWWC culinary program provided snacks and meals. And then this is the largest portion of the fund that we get through Spanish Club. So it was really important to us to present this year. It helps all of the activities that we do. Here are a few pictures from setup and the conference.
So now we'll talk a little bit about our Spanish Club specifically and what we have done to grow it.
First, we wanted to talk about the Spanish Club itself and how last year we had around 10 to 15 members through a lot of student outreach that Juliana and I created as presidents. We started off Spanish Club this year with around 50 members. About 30 of those are active, but it's still a very large club compared to some of the others. We also would like to talk about how in the previous years, around our freshman year, was the final year of the Spanish Club, or the French Club and program. So without the French Club, it only left Spanish and German Club. and Spanish Club started doing a lot of activities on its own. So Juliana and I stepped up to help make sure that the Spanish Club didn't go away.
So we do a lot of this outreach through social media. We have an Instagram page, which we follow just a bunch of people from Saline High School and all of our class student council pages. So we were able to use that to get more traffic to our page, and we posted some flyers that we had created, which included code to our Google Classroom, which is one of our means of communication, alongside our GroupMe, which really helps get the message out there and helps us communicate with our advisor, Senor Gregones.
We also posted that teal poster right there all around the school, so that's one of the ways that a lot of people find out about Spanish Club. To talk about a little bit about the club events. So as we said, we've helped set up the World Language Conference for a while now, but this was our first year presenting. We also have the club fair in the fall and spring, which Spanish Club makes sure to set up our trifold in that picture there. We also have meetings every Thursday, and then every so often we have parties or fiestas, and we have catering and piñatas to make sure that people enjoy going to Spanish Club and stay active.
Here are just some photos from like typical club events and parties. Like we said, we love getting catering and doing food, and we have like a gingerbread making contest every year. So it really helps bring the students in our club together and gives common activities for everyone to do.
And a lot of the food here was we paid for, and as well as the gingerbread houses we paid for through our funds from this conference. Spanish Club is one of the only clubs that doesn't have a fee to be a part of it. So this conference really helps us get our funds. And then we also have some more pictures just from meeting activities. Starting off for Hispanic Heritage Month, we made the collage in the middle. It had a lot of Hispanic figures, and then we also made paper flowers just to put around it, and it was in the middle of the Spanish hallway, so as people are walking by, they'll see it.
We also created a poster of Afro-Latinos, and each person like colored a different portion of the page, so we were able to put it all together and also hang that in the Spanish hallway.
So as Juliana said, the one poster on the right was for Black History Month just a few months ago, and we try to coincide a lot of our activities through Spanish Club with stuff that's going on currently, and by showcasing art that we make in Spanish Club, it sort of helps us draw in new members as well.
So this is an excerpt from our presentation that we gave at the conference, but this is going to talk about the impact of this club and why it's so important to us and to people at Saline High School.
First, we want to talk about community. So throughout our years in Spanish Club, there were, as I said, there were just about 10 people a few years ago, and now there are a lot more. So it's a similar group to people who keep coming back, and it provides a nice break at the end of the day. People can look forward to it. They know it's every single Thursday, and we like to have fun, and we like to go back to that same group.
Yeah, we've grown a great community within the club, and although there can be little small groups within that club, we do so many events where everyone can come together and have like a common like activity, a common theme that we all share and something everyone can bond over. This club also provides people with quality education. So some of our members are not currently in a Spanish class or may not just have it this trimester. So through Spanish Club, we're able to give them like immersement into the language, and we do that through like our fun activities and our favorite choreographer, Mundo Gucci. So it's just an easy and great way to put that into the minds of our peers.
It's also a great way to connect different levels of Spanish. I know AP Spanish has had increasingly more people in it each year. We have people in Spanish Club from Spanish 1, 2, 3, 4, and AP, like ourselves. So by having Spanish Club include everybody, it is it's a great pipeline to keep the Spanish program going.
Thank Thank you, guys.
So before you sit down, muchísimas gracias. Maybe somebody at the table, I have a quick question for you. A question, thank you. Preguntas?
Does it have to be in Spanish?
Sí, sí. No, it can be in English, correct?
Yes.
I'll go if it's
Okay.
easier. Just teasing you. Michael and I do French, so this is hard. So first of all, thank you for coming. I appreciate it. I think that cultural intelligence and respect for other languages is so important. So the sentence that really stuck with me that you said is you didn't want to see it go away, so you stepped in, and I appreciate that. That's so important. Foreign language is important here. It's probably going to be important in the future, and I know that Saline students travel quite a bit, so it's always nice and respectful of other cultures when you can at least say some of the greetings and things, so I appreciate that. I had two questions, and I'll just say them both, and then you can answer how you'd like. I was able to meet and get to know several exchange students this past fall when they came and are still here, and was just curious if you try to involve exchange students in your program, the conference or Spanish club or German club or what have you. And then also, what are you doing to get the younger grades involved, particularly, like you said, when they don't have Spanish that try?
This year, we don't currently have any exchange students in Spanish Club, but last year we had 2 exchange students from Spain who are a very active part. They really enjoyed listening to a lot of their music. We created a playlist, and they incorporated a lot of music from Spain. Yeah, as I said, this year we don't have any exchange students, but it was lots of fun having them last year.
Recruitment.
Oh, yeah,
maybe
sorry.
particularly with freshmen just coming into the high school.
Yeah, so last year we went to the club fair and we're super annoying and we're flagging down students, like the incoming freshmen. So we were able to get a lot of them in the club. I think almost half of our members are probably freshmen at the moment. So being their first year of high school, they're looking for clubs to join, and we made our trifold poster super flashy, we had candy and everything, and we just keep them engaged and with those fun activities.
It's also growing a little bit harder each year as a lot of the younger grades don't have Spanish at school. I know we've grown up with Spanish in school, so it's sort of a struggle to get people to join it right in high school. So we hope that Spanish Club can be a way to do that in the future.
All right, I'm kind of notorious for asking this question, but I'm going to do it in Spanish. Ready? ¿Cómo puedo ayudarte? How can we help you? What can we do? What can the board do to support you?
You can correct him, too.
And you can correct me, please, because I think it's, would it be ¿Cómo podemos ayudarte, right?
Yeah, how can we?
Yeah.
All right, anyway.
There you go.
I think I got it right, actually.
Honestly, just
Shout out to my Spanish teacher.
just bringing more attention to the program itself. It is a very big program at Saline High School. That's the most teachers, the most students involved. But just keeping that attention on it and making sure students know it's a great community. We have great teachers. Spanish Club itself and just keeping those club fairs going, it's so helpful for students to see the opportunities that they have.
Okay. I just was impressed with the shared experiences that you're offering the club and students, and I think those shared experiences are really helpful to the culture of the school overall. So when you have something that ties you together and some experiences that tie you together, it can be just really positive for the culture of the whole school. I'm really impressed with your presentation at the conference and that you helped facilitate that conference. And I have a daughter who's in college right now, and being published or giving presentations is something that future employers are looking for. And so the fact that you're doing that now when you're juniors, I think, are you juniors? Yeah, juniors in high school is really impressive and something that will carry you for a long time. I also noticed, as you mentioned, the food and catering that you are able to provide through those funds. And so I'm wondering, with that, I'm curious about the connections that you're making to the Hispanic community at large. I'm thinking the catering is probably from perhaps some authentic cooks and chefs in our community, and if there are any other connections that you're making.
So the first time we got catering was in our conversational Spanish class last year. We asked around to a lot of the local restaurants, and a lot of them weren't willing to give us a huge spread of food at 8 a.m. The first one that did say yes was Paradise right down the street. And we have since kept an open text thread with them. We've had Spanish catering at a Spanish club meeting and an AP Spanish class as well. So it's been good to connect with them because we keep going back to them, and they're always really appreciative and helpful. Yeah.
I think those connections are really important for our school, for our community. I think it's important for us to know too. We always like to support local establishments, so it's really nice and a great way to connect. Thank you.
Well, thank.
I've appreciated the Spanish food and AP Spanish and conversations. I wanted to ask what your goals are for the club for next year, as you guys are going to continue being leaders, and how you're going to leave it better than you found it.
We would love to get as many people involved as possible. Like we said, we have 30 active members at the moment, but I mean, it'd be really cool to make that number more. And we're currently trying to find 2 sophomores to train to take our spots when we graduate in 2 years. So that, and also we've created the Instagram account and made it a lot more public. I don't really know what to call that, but making sure that gets passed down to each leader and training those leaders to take over like we did.
We also, in previous years, we've done the mural for Hispanic Heritage Month, but this was the first year we did something for Black History Month. So I think creating a lot of art made by the students in Spanish class or Spanish club and posting it around the school helps to let people know that we're there, but also helps to highlight the intersectionality of a lot of people who speak Spanish. And we'd like to keep expanding that part of Spanish Club as well.
So I just want to say thank you to your teacher. So mi español mejorando, pero lentamente. It's going very slowly. But thank you. You've done a wonderful job with the team and the club, and thank you. And thank you for your leadership in it.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
We have, gracias. We have 2 scheduled reports, and we rolled the dice beforehand and to determine who would go first. And Carol and Lindsay, you won.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this evening. I'm Carol Melcher, currently principal of the Saline Alternative High School and longtime member of the district school safety team.
Hi, I'm Lindsay Gettner. I'm the assistant principal at Saline Middle School, and I am honored to be here this evening, so thanks for having us.
Difficult topic, but I hope we will alleviate some of your concerns this evening with our presentation. I had the honor and the privilege of attending a training presented by Dr. Dewey Cornell about 3 years ago. And I want to give you a brief bio on Dr. Cornell so you can understand the reason why this training was so important. He's currently a forensic clinical psychologist, director of the Virginia Youth Violence Project, and faculty associate of the Institute of Law, Psychiatry, and Public Policy. During his clinical and academic career, Cornell has worked with juvenile and adult violent offenders. He's testified in criminal proceedings and legislative hearings and consulted on violence and prevention efforts. He's authored more than 300 publications in psychology and education, including studies of juvenile homicide, school safety, bullying, and threat assessment. He is the principal author of the Comprehensive School Threat Assessment Guidelines. He's currently directing a national study of school threat assessment with funding from the U.S. Department of Justice. A major emphasis in his work is the achievement of equity and fairness in school discipline and educational outcomes. He holds a PhD from the University of Michigan. In addition to this training, Lindsay and I were also able to attend a training at Washtenaw Community College that was put on by the Michigan State Police, and that was in threat assessment as well. We were thrilled when we entered the building and saw that Officer Gassaway was there. He's the school resource officer at Saline High School.
So the acronym CSTAG is that is what we'll be referencing this evening. So it is an evidence-based program since 2013 by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and is considered the gold standard. So we may need to move on to the next slide if we haven't done so already. I'm doing it. All right. Oh, they gave me that power. Okay. They do partner with the Sandy Hook Foundation as well. And the belief truly is to not go through a cumbersome, elaborate process for threat assessments, but to have questions and key observations and processes that allow us to be objective when we're, trying to address a potential threat. So the system that we've adopted is more efficient, and we have places for less serious and more serious, and we want to make sure that we are, collaborating with our colleagues to do this work, in addition to making sure that all buildings have teams that can address this. So as Carol mentioned, she went to the Train the Trainer directly from CSTAG. I went to the CSTAG training as well. Our goal has been to train our administrative teams and our mental health professionals in every building. As you'll hear later on in the presentation, it's really looking at the root cause of some of the behaviors that we're seeing, and that takes a well-rounded team to give that well-rounded response to anybody that's involved. And so we'll go through a lot more details, but our priority was to ensure that our administrators and mental health professionals were trained first, and we'll be expanding our training after the state. You're up next. Okay. I did push the button this time.
So what is threat assessment? Lots of folks have different ideas, but truly what it is to assess behaviors. We look at a behavioral threat assessment as a problem-solving approach to violence prevention that involves assessment and intervention with students who have threatened violence in some way. Sometimes we learn from conducting a threat assessment that discipline is not necessary at all, but that mental health supports are indicated. So we want to make sure that we look at a comprehensive threat assessment to include not only just what happened or what the student may or may not have said, but also to look at whether or not we need to put additional supports in place to make sure that that student is supported. We currently have conducted 34 threat assessments at the secondary level and 15 at the elementary level since February of 2022, when we first began our trainings.
We really want to take the opportunity as we're conducting threat assessments to figure out what can we prevent. So how we do this is identifying what needs to be identified, what was said, what was done, and are we seeking help from other professionals to help this person in distress. We want to evaluate. So while we're evaluating, we do that from a team approach. We need to first and foremost figure out where are we at. Is there a serious threat, and or is this something that needs to be addressed right now in this moment? We have a lot of technology that supports us in this, that flags information for us. I know those have already been presented to you, but we're getting information from all sorts of different places, and we want to make sure that people continue to feel comfortable to report. But we also evaluate from all of the information provided to us. Most importantly, that was the intervention. So not only are we assessing the threat and responding to it, but the way we close out a threat assessment is to make sure that we're putting in intervention, because we don't want to have to respond to a crisis. We want to be preventative. We want to make sure that prevention is occurring and that we're getting information and responding appropriately to make sure that that student and that family and or anyone else involved in what we have found is supported, and we have a clear path forward on making sure that everyone is able to come to school in a positive way. Prevention doesn't always require prediction. We don't have crystal balls. We'll talk about that later in our presentation. We cannot predict what happens, but we can make sure that people are supported, and we want to make sure that we have safety regulations that make roads safer, and we have all different platforms in which that we gather information. We are looking at evaluating that information and providing interventions as needed. We don't want to always think crisis. We're trying to be preventative. When, I'm going to click. So that was the slide we just went through. Sorry, I should not be trusted with the clicker. And then when should a threat assessment be conducted? So we're going to go over a couple of pieces of information in regard to that. So statements or behaviors that express intent to harm others. These can be direct or indirect statements. We also are making sure that we're looking at plans, means, and intent. So sometimes we have fleeting comments that are made, especially at where I work, the middle school. Sometimes we don't think before we post, speak, or act. And so we want to make sure that we're truly looking at, do you have a plan, do you have means, and do you have intent? Looking at that planning and preparation of causing harm to someone. How is it just a comment, or is there plan, means, and intent behind it? So transient threats. Think those fleeting comments of, in the moment, heat of the moment, I'm responding quickly, not thinking before I speak or post. A lot of things happen on social media. Or substantive. Now, it's not how it's spelled. We had to practice this when we were doing our trainings. Substantive threats. And that truly is looking at plans, means, and intent, and or actions that have already occurred that go into that plan, means, and intent. We're going to talk a little bit more later in the presentation about the differences between transient and substantive threats, but that's really what we're looking at, is those three domains. Okay. I remembered this time. Thanks.
So what we want to do is not operate out of a position of fear. Zero tolerance has been instituted in our state for quite some time, and truly what threat assessment can do is eliminate the need for zero tolerance. It gives us an idea to look at different ways to discipline, different ways to hold students accountable, and different ways to get students the help that they need. Suspensions, as you know, lead to falling behind, dropout rates are increased, school to prison pipeline is increased, so we do everything that we can to prevent suspensions and keep students in school if it is safe to do so. There is no profile of a school shooter. It just does not exist. But we can avert school shootings by looking very, very carefully at some problem-solving techniques, intervention, when students report threats. So we have to look at the difference between snitching and informing, and we have to educate students on what the difference is between tattling and telling. And those are two very, very important things that we want to start teaching students at the pre-K level.
So additional principles that we look at in regard to the threat assessment process, and this comes both from CSTAG, but also the Secret Service and DOE. So targeted violence is the result of an understandable process. It's not just a random or spontaneous act. We truly need to consider the person, the situation, the setting, and the target. In addition, we added students' individual educational needs. Keep in mind the person who makes the threat and the person who is the target both are important in providing support and making sure that we are communicating with both. We need to make sure that we're maintaining an investigative, skeptical mindset. Keep in mind that we want to believe all students that are, we want to believe everybody that they're telling us the truth, but also keeping that skeptical mindset that it prompts us to ask additional questions, to dig deeper. Tell us what that looks like. Tell us what that sounded like. Who was involved? And not just stopping at one person's word, but getting as many statements as we can as possible. Focus on the facts and behaviors, not traits. We all present differently as humans. Developmentally, we present very different from elementary all the way up to high school and everything in the middle. So we want to make sure that we are looking at the facts and behaviors and what's being reported, in addition to getting lots of different statements. Using the information, again, from all possible sources. Sometimes we get inundated with information if it's widespread. Sometimes we don't. We have to go looking for it. So we say, where were you? Where was this located? We ask the who, what, where, why, how questions, often and frequent, to ensure that we're getting as much information as possible. It's really important to keep in mind, and this one's really hard, especially when we don't think before we speak, act, or post, but making a threat is not the same as posing a threat. We have to ask ourselves, is the student on a path towards an attack? Or did they make that fleeting, transient threat? Or is this more substantive because there is plan, means, and intent? So really looking at those principles. In addition, threat assessment is not designed to determine whether the person has made a threat, but whether they pose a threat. Do we want to get to the truth if they actually made the threat? Absolutely. But we are truly trying to hone in on those substantive threats of, do they pose a threat to cause harm or violence in the future, and or have they already? You want to avoid overreaction and underreaction. There are some students who really want to share everything, and or witnesses, and or families, and or we find things. Sometimes it's hard not to overreact, but we have to maintain composure and make sure that we are responding to each and every comment that is made and or action. But we also don't want to underreact either. We want to make sure that if something was said or done, that we are reacting. We are always doing this from a team approach. It's always important when you're going through something that can be harmful that we have supportive measures in place from the get. So if we know that we're going into a full-blown threat assessment, we are ensuring that we have mental health professionals in the room and or a designated safe person for the student involved. We want to make sure that if we need to, we're notifying our district team. We're working, and we'll talk about roles and responsibilities in a future slide, but if we have to work with outside agencies such as law enforcement, we are doing so. But we want to make sure this is never an individual decision. So if we get information from a staff member or whoever, we're not just deeming one way or another if something happened and a threat was made and or a threat is going to occur. We want to make sure that we are doing it from a team approach. We're trying to figure out the why. Why would you say that? Why would you do that? Why would you think about that? So we can prevent that from happening the next time. Again, that thinking before we speak, act, and post, that pause. That's what we really want to work on. So then during that pause, we can get people what they need to feel like they don't have to make a threat. And then again, threat assessment is not a disciplinary process. It can inform the disciplinary process, but it's the very last page of the threat assessment for a reason of how we respond. And there are numerous boxes, and it's not just disciplinary. Discipline is at the bottom. We want to make sure, are the parents informed? You know, do we have counseling? Are there any outside agencies that we can connect our students with? There's all sorts of different responses that we could go through, and disciplinary action is just one of them. Okay. You're welcome.
So who's involved in a threat assessment? And who's involved depends on what type of threat was made and what that looks like in each building. So always there is an administrator involved on the threat assessment team, and usually that's a principal or assistant principal in one of the buildings. That responsibility is for the principal or assistant principal to lead the team. We will sometimes involve a school resource officer if that's indicated by the nature of the threat that was made. So if a crime has been committed, or that we are very certain that a crime may have been committed, we will ask the school resource officer to sit in to help us go through the threat assessment process. Mental health staff, as Lindsay mentioned, are important, especially for many of our students who are in crisis, and many of our students who might be on caseload. They might have a case manager who might want to sit in, not necessarily a mental health professional, but somebody that they know is a trusted professional in the building. And we'll have that person sit in because they know the student well, and they know what behaviors to look for and what behaviors we might say, okay, that was a little bit off for that student today, and that really doesn't fit any pattern of what we've seen in the past. Optional team members might include a bus driver, a teacher, an aide, other staff, pretty much anyone in the building who knows the student well and can inform us about the threat assessment process. We may not need every single team member in every single threat assessment case. These threat assessments take a long time. They're very time consuming, they're very laborious, but that's very intentional. That's what our work is, to make sure that we get to the right determination of what happened and why. And we were, like I said, we are continuing to train additional staff members. I think next up will be our special education staff to make sure that they understand the threat assessment processes as well. Oh, now I have to do both.
Yep, it's tricky.
Lindsay mentioned continuum of threats, and when we start at the bottom there, figures of speech or jokes, things are really transient, and those things happen often in school settings. They often happen in the adult world. Figures of speech are just sometimes taken literally, and then we don't really know what that means. Jokes, fleeting expressions of anger could happen. If something happens in a school setting and somebody just kind of drops an F-bomb here and there, does that mean that we need to conduct a threat assessment? Maybe, maybe not. Attention seeking, boasting, all of our students seek our attention for various reasons, and we want to make sure that that's a legitimate need. We want to make sure that those needs are met. But as we go up the continuum of threats, we're looking at attempts to intimidate or frighten, and then finally, a warning of impending violence, and that would indicate a substantive threat. Sorry, golly. Why did they have to name it that? Because nobody can say it. Anyway.
Serious.
Serious.
We would like to
Very serious threat.
We talked to Dr. Dewey, he didn't listen.
He didn't listen. So anyway, there we go with our continuum of threats and why we would do a threat assessment for various reasons.
Just screaming or having a tantrum is not a threat. However, we do often see, depending on the developmental age and or cognitive ability, that sometimes that tantrum can be paired with, I'm going to kill you, or I'm going to kill so-and-so. At times, we still need to conduct a threat assessment depending if that is the baseline behavior of that student. Other times, we understand that that is their baseline, and we will do a threat assessment screener to determine that their needs could be met with more individualized and or specialized instruction. So it's not the question of whether the student expressed intent to cause harm to someone. That also needs to be addressed as well because it is a behavior. However, it is, are they going to carry out that threat as well? There is no magic formula or crystal ball. We have started numerous threat assessments that we think, okay, this is going to be easy, closed shut. We're going to get our witness statements and move on and address it as such. And then you get more information. And then you get more information. And you're like, okay, now we're going to include our school resource officer because now we're going to need to do other things outside of school. We're not trying to predict the future. We're trying to be preventative and make sure that we're problem solving and providing interventions. And those vary depending on the needs. So there's no crystal ball, unfortunately. Factors that we do consider, I know we've mentioned a few of these, but the age of the student, the capability of the student to carry out the threat. Every single threat that involves a weapon, we do have to ask, do you have access? Does any other home that you go to often have the ability for you to carry out something with a weapon? We don't just stop at, are there guns in your home? We have to dig a little bit deeper and ask more follow-up questions because we know that students share spaces with all sorts of different people and we need to make sure those spaces are safe as well. We do look at the student's disciplinary history, the credibility of the student and the willingness to acknowledge their behavior. A lot of times our hope is that they come in and they say, yep, I did it, I shouldn't have, I regret it. And so that's part of our key observations when we're doing a threat assessment. And if we don't see those key observations, we're digging more, giving them additional opportunities because sometimes talking to a team of people and starting that threat assessment process can be overwhelming. And so sometimes we got to pause and we got to go back to it. Sometimes students come back the next day and we're still in that, portion of the threat assessment, and we have families with us that have also talked to their students and said, okay, we've got to open up, we've got to tell them everything. And so it goes on, but we also want to make sure that we are getting all the information. The credibility of the witness accounts. So it's not just the person who made the threat, it's all the witnesses involved. And then having access again to weapons and or possessing a weapon. But when in doubt, treat all threats as substantive and go from there. So you may start thinking that it's very serious and then you realize, okay, all right, we're going to keep going, but we treat all of them seriously and we look into everything that is provided to us. Do you want me to keep going? Okay. just gonna keep rolling. So research, Dr. Dewey, very well renowned, rooted in research and evidence-based. This is an evidence-based tool. We use the same tool across buildings. We ask the same questions. We ask different follow-up questions depending on what information is provided to us. We're looking at the same key observations. We're looking at the same list of responses to a threat. But keeping in mind that all of this is based on the fact that 99% of threats are not carried out. 1% of students are expelled. 1% are arrested. They have seen a decrease in suspension rates when using this tool. Racial disparities have been reduced and or absent. Counseling is used more often. There's a plug. If we can ever get any more counselors, there's your plug. And then a more positive school climate. So once students have been a part of this process and know that it's lengthy and it's a team and oh my gosh, now I'm sitting at a table and I'm having to talk to all these people, they start getting word out, okay, you can't say stupid stuff anymore, or you can't do stupid stuff, as we say. We're not stupid, but dumb, right? And so it gets out there that, you know, this is a process. We are taking these things serious. We do have a list of questions. We partner with families. I have conducted numerous threat assessments that the family was with us the entire time. We have paused on our questioning, and if they say, okay, we want to be there. Okay, we're not going to shy away from that. Here's what we have. Come in and join us. And the parents are a part of that process, and they are actually pretty helpful when they do come in and help us. It's not always the case, but we do, and you know, we don't shy away from that. All right. So what are our next steps? We want to increase the amount of staff trained. We have gone through, we've shown our staff what the document looks like. We show that there is quite a process for this. We've also shown them what we use as a threat assessment screener, again, looking at that student's individual needs to see if we do need to do a full-blown threat assessment or address the needs in another way. So those are our goals, and I'm sure you have questions.
We might. Thank you for your great report on substantive threats.
We had to look up the Google pronunciation and actually add it to our slide deck for our training.
Awesome. So if there are any board members with questions, if you can provide succinct answers, that's great. And if you know it'll take longer to get the answer, please just record the question, and I know you'll get back to us all. Thanks.
No problem.
I don't have much, but a couple things. I better put my glasses on. I like the idea of the prevention. Think prevention, not crisis. I think I like that. And then also, and you can think about this and even email back, but are there any state laws that are hindering your work in this, or that need to be adjusted or changed? Because there's a lot of the Why Meadow Died book and stuff. There's a lot of things about state laws that were hindering the schools on what to do and so forth. So I'm just kind of curious if there's state laws out there that we might have to look at.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, so you're going to respond to that perhaps later? Okay.
Yes.
We have either of the, Brad?
Okay, just go down, that's fine. So I guess a couple of things kind of like are light bulb things for me. If you want to write them down, it's perfectly fine with me. So, you know, one of the things I think about this, and I see this through the lens of a teacher, because that's what I do on a day-in-day basis, is that, like, how equipped do you think our staff is with regards to reporting, and then follow through on the reporting? And so that's the first thing. And then the second thing is, I would want your expert opinion at some point about our policies and our procedures, and even our consistency between buildings about how we do a threat assessment and how we carry out, and the language we use and the information we disseminate. And then the last thing I could tell you that as an educator can be really a challenge is, like, and I'm gonna speak freely for a moment, FERPA law almost makes us like afraid to, like, that we can't talk about what's happening. But at the same time, we have to find a balance also with being able to disseminate information so that we can alleviate concerned individuals in our building, concerned teachers, staff, students, et cetera. So I guess I would want you to, you know, speak to, like, that balance that happens and how really that is a difficult thing to navigate. So if you want to talk about any of that now, or you can talk about it later,
Yep.
but thank you.
It's not a hard answer.
No. As the leaders in this work, we often have other administrators call us and say, okay, I just want to make sure I'm finding the correct document. I'm using the right tool. All right, now what am I doing? All right, these are the questions I asked, and I have some follow-up questions. Great, ask those follow-up questions. So they're contacting Carol or I. If we have questions, we are going to our core team and making sure that we're all on the same page and that we're addressing the needs the same way. Depending on what actually occurs during this, that's when we disseminate a team of figuring out that communication piece. You know, in the past, we've had 6th grade classrooms that were entirely impacted by the word choices of others, and we needed to communicate out with all of those families for those 2 classrooms. Other times, we've found the need to communicate with the entire building. It depends on the situation. So that's that gray land. Like, we wish we had like a phone tree that we could follow each and every time, and we have that tool here, but figuring out those after pieces of communication is up to the discretion, but also with the premise of we need to foster relationships with our staff and our students and our families. If we have trusting relationships with our staff, they know in both of our buildings that if you have questions, open door policy. We're going to communicate with you as quickly as we can, but we need to be factual. We cannot provide misinformation. We need to make sure that we have all the facts before we communicate out. But with that prevention piece, we want to ensure that if there is a student in need, that our teaching team and anyone else that shares space with that student knows, hey, handle with care. In addition, here's what we're dealing with. If you have follow-up questions, please communicate that with us so we can address them.
I will add to Mr. Gerby that if you are concerned about FERPA, there is an anonymous tool that is really powerful, and that's called OK to Say. And you can report any threat or anything that you feel concerned about where you would like to do that anonymously. You can identify the student or not. Just say this happened in this building, and then we will get that information and we will know how to handle it.
And we're communicating that with our students. Just in the last couple weeks, I've been responding to OK to Says, and they'll name somebody involved. So I start with that person because it's where I can start. And I pull the kids in, and they're like, oh yeah, that was me. I submitted that OK to Say. I said, I truly don't know. I truly don't know when you submit it. The state of Michigan doesn't know when it goes through their call system and or their answering system. We don't know because it truly is anonymous. However, this is the information provided, and this is where we could start. So the kids are starting to hear too, like, really, no, you can see my screen. I don't know who submitted it.
I want to make sure I reiterate that idea of that. It is a delicate, and I understand what you're saying, and it is a delicate balance afterwards about being able to share out, right? We want to be able to tell as much as we can, but we want to respect the privacy of individuals, and that is a difficult thing to walk. And I appreciate you guys like going through the training. I appreciate you going out to the police training. I thought that was going to be very worthwhile. I'm glad to hear that it was. Boy, like, this is never, like you said, crystal ball. It's never easy, and I appreciate your efforts.
When in doubt, we tell our staff, come to us. Don't hesitate. Text, call, come to our offices. If you have that weird feeling and you think something is awry, that's where we enact a team. Even if a threatening statement wasn't made or a threatening act wasn't made, if you've got this feeling of, hey, I saw them search something, but I don't know if I actually saw it, get another team member involved so we can follow up with it and make sure the kid is being supported.
No, I was just going to say, I know that you mentioned that, sometimes it's a good lesson to be learned that our words have power and that we need to be mindful of that and recognize that. And sometimes that's, comes with maturity. And so I appreciate the education that's also going along with this, and sometimes the firm but loving education that's happening with that. I will say that the other piece of this is that it's also providing tools and resources to families that might be in crisis. And I know that in my own experience in a public school setting, that the connection to community mental health and the mental health providers in the community is sometimes, I won't say like out of reach for families, but in crisis, it's not the first thing they're thinking of. So having somebody who has that calm and I want to say procedural knowledge of how to make those connections is saving lives. So I appreciate the work that you're doing. And I appreciate the way that it's being disseminated. I do wonder about, and maybe you can speak to this, but I worry a little bit, like as I want more people to be trained, but I don't want it to be diluted.
Yeah.
And so I think maybe the documentation or the tools that you're using, but how can we ensure that, you know, the two of you had the training from the source and now you're training others. So how can we make sure that the integrity of the tools and the systems remain?
Before I forget, I just want to offer the students a chance if you have anything you want to add. If not, that's fine.
Just before that, I have a question for like the social media aspect for the substantive threats for the social media. How do you like pick up on that as a substantive threat? Because like if they're posting it once, it could be seen as just the first word threat, and then
Right.
and then how do you pick up
Transient.
that's like a line, and how do you know that it's not just the one threat, it's the substantive?
It's a really good question, Mateo, and we don't know. We do hear, honestly, you folks are our first informants. You see social media a lot more frequently than we do. I don't spend hours and hours on X or Instagram or wherever just looking at your accounts. That's just not that's kind of creepy. But you guys tell us what you hear, what you see, what you feel. You can post that up on OK to Say. You can do whatever you want to do, and then let us determine whether or not it's a credible threat. Serious one.
Yes.
Or
Keep in
transient.
mind that typically social media stuff happens in the middle of the night. And
does.
so we trust that our students and families are going to work with us. So example being, there was a threat made on social media. It was Snap, so it only lives for 24 hours. It lives much longer than that. Get that word out too. Once it's out there, it's out there. And so 11 o'clock at night, I'm getting a phone call from a family. Well, they emailed, I called, and I said, we have to contact the police. Police made sure it wasn't a substantive threat right away because the principals were not going out at 11 o'clock at night. And then we went right into a threat assessment with the family involved the very next morning because we needed to ensure that, yes, you caused harm with your actions. Did it end up being a substantive threat? No. However, we took it as such because we didn't know. So going back to that objective, you think worst case scenario, but then you make sure you get the information to see, is this going to be worst case scenario?
I just simply wanted to say thank you for the care and attention you take to this very, very sobering topic. I value you both in this, and thank you. And Carol, I know how many years you've been involved with this. Thank you very much. And fully, and fully support, the training to keep both our staff and our students safe. You mentioned Sandy Hook Promise earlier in the slide deck, and lest we forget that it was staff and students that were affected. So it's important.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes, so you mentioned helping a person in distress, responding to crisis, and providing support. Lindsay, under what situation would a staff member use physical means to manipulate a child? Whether it's physical restraint, physical prompting, or dumping an unresponsive child out of their chair.
I'll get back to you with my response. Thank you.
How are students followed over time? So, if you have someone who, how do you ensure institutional memory? So the kids move from school to school, within the district, outside of the district. How do you make sure that, without invading someone's privacy or sort of tagging them as being dangerous? On the other hand, there's a balance there of trying to know if something is a repeated threat as kids move through the system. So are there procedures? Is that sort of case by case? How do we follow the kids as they develop, and how do you move past them in the moment you know, there's crisis in the moment and then something happens, but finding that long-term mental health care and continuing to follow those kids over time as they develop seems like it would be quite a challenge, but also really important.
Sure. You have posed lots of questions there. I will try to answer as many as I can. So first and foremost, there is a paper trail that follows every student. It's an electronic paper trail housed in our log entries within PowerSchool. So it just is a simple pull-down menu that says a threat assessment has been conducted. That's all it says. So that flags a teacher or an administrator to go look further on what it was that was done and what the determination was on that threat assessment, what the outcome was. So that is usually then, the paper part of that is usually housed in the student's cumulative educational record, which is in the, usually in the office in each building. It's different, so it's in the student's personal file. Getting them help and following up on help and those kinds of things. Actually, I will say, we have a new program in the county called Care Saline, where we're going to be able to refer students out and have them get some help quicker than we have been able to do in the past. Mental health resources, as you know, are just stretched so thin, Washtenaw County, pretty much everywhere. So getting kids help and getting kids help immediately is not necessarily something that we've been able to do in the past. I'm hopeful that our new program through Care Saline will allow us that flexibility, able to get kids some help like right now. We also have help available in each building. So not as many counselors as we would like, obviously, but social workers are available, behavior threat assessment people are available, and obviously administrators are available to help students with their challenges, with their crises. So yes, following a student consistently is going to be a challenge for lots of years. But I think if we use our new systems, I think we're in a much better spot than we have been in the past.
I would add to that we don't want to get in the habit of branding students, and so having just a notation to look further and then looking at the documentation that's in the file will give that well-rounded approach in all of the details, because it is hard to capture that in just a paragraph, right? It could sound really bad when something was actually just a kid in crisis that needed help. So going to that file and having, okay, all the things that actually occurred through that process to support the kid is important as well.
Well, I would like to thank both of you for your presentation. I really appreciated that. And release you from the grip of the board. Ms. Stemmer, you have a 30-minute presentation coming up or so?
No.
45. Because what I'd like to... Okay, because I was going to recommend that we perhaps take a brief recess since we've been at this for 2 hours, and we're unaccustomed to that. All right, then that's fine. If so, without objection, I'd like to have a 5 or so minute break. Thank you so much. Thank you. No, we're back on. Thank you very much. Thank you for accommodating our need for a brief break. I appreciate it greatly. Let me introduce, please, Kara Stemmer, who is I don't know what to call you. How about you introduce yourself to us?
What hat should I wear tonight? No, so I'm Kara Stemmer. I'm the director of the South and West Washtenaw Consortium. Some people refer to the position as a principal, but at the end of the day, I just help oversee. I say help because it takes a village. I help oversee all 23 of our career and tech ed programs. As you can see on the screen, we're from fall or early winter, and kind of gave you just a little, a few touch points about the consortium, but I'm here to share a few more in-depth highlights of our program. So thank you for the invite. It kind of feels like a CTE night as we honored some of our staff, and I tend to be emotional when I talk about student success or program success, so I apologize in advance if I get emotional behind it, because I got to embrace it because I can't fight it. So that's just how it works. Anyway, and I'd be remiss not to introduce Emily Cook. She is the business coordinator from our office, and we don't survive without Emily. You can ask any one of our teachers, anyone in the high school. She helps run the consortium. So I'm going to lean on her for some historical knowledge in case there's something that is asked and I can't, because obviously I'm just finishing my first year in this role. So, okay. What happened? Oh, there we go. I was talking too long and it already stalled. On the screen, we have pictures, and passionate. Drew Miller in the marketing class. Yeah, so we put this in the PowerPoint because this really captures the narrative of CTE. And it's twofold. So Adam Rodriguez's class, his advanced photography class, was charged with going out and capturing some photos that share what CTE is. And super proud of these. So proud that we asked can we give you a new challenge, him and his kids. So they have printed these photos on canvases and stretched them, built the frame, and they have provided us about 24 by 36 canvases that are going to line our hallway in the CTE, the SWWC hallway. So I certainly invite you to do a gallery walk next time you're at the high school, because it's certainly a point of pride for many reasons. We did invite Drew in, and I said, Drew, you're going to be forever marked on our, hanging on our wall, but yeah, so good stuff. This is a little bit of a repeat. We had our open house in November, and it really was a start of our recruitment campaign. We had about 1,000 people attend. We had about 34 businesses that signed up to join us. The intent of the night was to invite new students, potential new students or current students, and come and just really see our program, talk with industry professionals. If my student enrolls in one of these classes, what does that look like for their future? Extremely proud of what that night looked like, and more or less just because so many people were involved. So it really showcased the talent of all of our programs, starting from Danielle Phelps, who's obviously we all know her culinary talent. Her team put on the dinner, and Mr. Rodriguez's class made the brochures. Mateo can speak to working with Mr. Bramer in the entrepreneurship, business, and accounting class, and being like the project managers for the night. And let's see, even down to our welding and our building trades programs made products to be sold or auctioned off in the silent auction. So it really encompassed the entire CTE family and what we can do and provide for our community. And then I guess I also need to mention, because I know in class with Mateo, the Saline Chamber of Commerce, we had them help mentor some of our students, which I think is a skill set in itself, working with adults and communicating and teaching them those real world communication skills. And so some of the members would come in and just kind of have a touch point with the students, what's going on, provide suggestions. So I thought that was super special too. And so I just want to thank them as well for their help in the event. Let's see. So the next we'll just kind of move on. Oh, there's a picture of it. Fun night, I think, overall. Feels like forever ago, and then we're moving on to enrollment, and it has been, I was told CTE from, the office standpoint is cyclical, and it certainly is, because like here we are, we're coming full circle to, I feel like we just started the school year, and now we're talking about next year. So here we are with our enrollment, and this is specific to Saline only, and all of our classes are on the left side, and then our current enrollment trend is on the right. And so this is very fluid. I want to just be transparent with that. Right now we have students still building, or they haven't even started building their actual schedule yet for next year. So this, sometimes a student will have an epiphany. Oh, I didn't know marketing was a CTE class and I had to apply for it. So there's just a lot of that conversation going on. So again, these numbers, it's still kind of live right now, if you will. Emily just said this morning she, added 3 kids. So this I expect to change still in the next couple of months. So, but we're excited. The trend, we had about 1,000 applications this year, very similar to last year. So obviously we all know that CTE is a voice right now and a movement, and excited to be a part of that and continue to work in that field and pushing kids. And then, let's see. So, exciting news. Free money is always exciting to talk about. So it's our 3rd time for receiving the grant, the 61C1 grant. This year, we are awarded $263,000. Significant. One just example, so Adam Rodriguez's class had an maybe even $88,000 printer, copier, piece of equipment that I don't know how we would have replaced that other than this grant. So very intentional with what we tried to ask teachers for big ticket items so that we could replace things that, maybe we couldn't do without this grant. So, but all of this stuff is coming in as we speak. It's super exciting to train the teachers on it and then obviously pass that skill over to the students. A staffing update, because I've seen that posted places, and obviously we've heard of the retirements tonight. We, in the spring, when I met with the 6 superintendents, we approved a new culinary arts teacher, an additional culinary. So I want to preface that Danielle Phelps is going nowhere. She is staying put, but there has been a surplus of applicants, and which is an awesome thing. We always have way too many applications for culinary, which we are now going to hire an additional culinary arts. So Danielle will focus more on the baking, and the culinary arts teacher will focus more on the cooking. And we added additional seats to the consortium, so now we can run 2 programs simultaneously or concurrently. The David Miller's job, it's going to be hard to fill. I'm going to lean on him to, help. So we have interviews scheduled for this Friday. We have the panel ready to go, and we're just going to hope and find somebody that can carry on the legacy that David has established with the program. Automotive teacher, you will probably hear on the agenda, we have a candidate that we have endorsed. Excited, and I hope to see him soon, because he's going to be a great, Tim Tomosic fully supports the hire, so that means I think we got to lean on him too, to kind of give us guidance on what he's looking for to take over the huge program. And then cosmetology technician, so we have our HVBA, the Huron Valley Beauty Academy. We have a technician leaving next week, or May 3rd, and he's going into nursing. So we hope maybe he comes back one day and helps with our nursing program. But anyway, we have recommended a candidate to HR, and we're hopeful to get that position filled. Lots going on, kind of feels like a full-time job, but we're gonna get through, and my goal is to leave, come June, we're done, and I can start helping and training and mentoring our new staff. And then this to me, I love information, I love data, and it kind of speaks to just how powerful and impactful career and technical education is, and hence the consortium. So I just pulled this off the Michigan State website. This is our follow-up survey. So one task that teachers are given is within a year, within a year of graduating, they're gonna hear from us, and we're gonna ask them to complete a survey. If they don't fill it out, we hit the parents, we hit siblings, we want as many people to validate what we're looking for. So These are the results of our follow-up survey. 32,000 students took it, responded, which is about 87%, 86%, which is good. The key here that I want to highlight, and which I think is awesome, sometimes you're sitting in class and a student says, when am I ever going to use what I'm learning? And 72% of our students say right out, 6 months after graduating, they're using the skills they learned in our classes, whether they're in college, whether they're on the job, whatever they're doing, they're utilizing those skills. So you heard some of the students talk about it's more than the curriculum, life skills, job interview skills, even down to like getting a professional outfit for the first time. This is where I get emotional because I'm so proud to like play that role in students' lives, because if it's not coming from home, and you know, someone's got to step up, and these programs are super impactful for our kids. And then speaking of that, so on the left-hand side, 32,000 students are enrolled in some CTSO, so some career technical student organization. So hence FFA, DECA, Skills USA, 32,000. And, you know, I can just attest, I had a student that competed at the national level and wrote her college essay about it. And, you know, so it gives them a purpose, and it creates this narrative that, you know, it's more than just going to a meeting. I mean, this changes lives. And as you heard from many people, obviously tonight, that's all I have to say, it's the why. So this extracurricular opportunity gives students a purpose to, you know, compete and just build relationships outside of the classroom. And then on the right-hand side, I'll just speak quickly about credentialing. So the state is really highlighting, like, what can we do to set our kids up for success and set them, like, what's their competitive advantage? And so the state says credentialing. So every one of our career and technical education, our state certified programs, has to offer some type of credential, which means it has to just be offered. Not every student has to take it. But in other words, when they leave our classes, what is one like stamp of approval? So for example, and it has to be industry recognized and state approved. So like culinary for their Serve Safe. Like that is an industry standard credential. So if a student was to leave the program and go apply at a restaurant, you know, that gives them that competitive advantage. And I think that in itself is powerful. And so in a year, maybe 2 years, all of our programs, but right now they're weaning as classes of programs that are transitioning from Perkins 4 to Perkins 5. That's a requirement now. So I'd say almost half of our programs are under Perkins 5, hence the requirement. And then I'm going to stop here, and this is where I'm going to say, this is where you can help. So work-based learning. I know, right? So this will be my narrative for like ever, because I'm on this huge push. I say, before I retire, I want to create this opportunity for students to get out in industry and like experience what that job looks like. And so whatever they're, you know, let's help them have a plan. So when they walk over the stage at graduation, they have an idea of what they want to do. Obviously, those that are going on to college, it's expensive. Even getting a job, like where do we want to put forth our efforts? And that's what CTE does. So work-based learning is another push by the state, and you see 4 quadrants. The bottom left one is like the highest level. So this is where I want all of our students at. All of our, being a state certified program, we have to meet certain rules, if you will, and provide proof at the end of every year. So, you know, teachers have to have guest speakers. They have to go on field trips. They have to somehow bridge the gap from industry to, you know, classrooms. But that bottom left quadrant highlights the highest level of like student engagement. And so apprenticeships, internships, like getting students out there. So it's not just a 1-hour experience. It's maybe they're going out for 2 weeks and following this person on their job. And I don't know what that looks like, but that's like, I feel like there's value. It's powerful. I've talked to people that have experienced this, and it's determined what they want it to do. So if you own a company, or if you are in any type of corporation where you say, yeah, you know what, I want to help mentor a student, I want to help guide them, I want to be a partner with the school, I would highly encourage you to get in contact with me, because we need you. I would love to offer every student and help guide them to find that partnership so that they can get out into the community. And, you know, they've learned the skill, now let's have them implement that skill. Let's see. So I can kind of just end this. You know, obviously I could speak hours about the value of CTE and how it just aligns with so many things. I think we've heard a lot about the why. I mean, just from the people at the podium tonight. I just want to thank you for the opportunity. Again, it's leaving the classroom where I taught it for 12 years. Now I'm helping teachers, and it's inspiring, and I'm hoping the students feel it, that we're passionate. And I was going to end with one quote because I think it's so magical. It's by her name's Gabrielle Bernstein, and she's a New York Times bestseller, but her quote was, "Allow your passion to become your purpose, and it will one day become your profession." So again, allow your passion to become your purpose, and it will one day become your profession. And I think that's what we're taking the kids, we're finding what their passion is, giving them purpose, and then taking them out and saying, you can make a life doing this. And that's where we're here to help guide you. That's what I have for you. And I didn't cry. Thank you very much. Okay. Questions? Anything?
Well, if I can just say first, thank you, Kara and Emily. Appreciate that. So, Emily, you're going to be speaking for the next 5 minutes?
No, that's okay. I don't want to. I didn't know if I could legally have her stand up here because she wasn't on the agenda. So I was like, just be here if anybody has questions.
So,
yes, please do.
Trustee Austin would like to lead off with a question.
I just have to say, I love the Southwest Washington Consortium and all it does for all our kids. And we do see, like, they spoke about it today, how it helps them. They go to these events and they're so much further advanced than the other students. I see it with my son and his college stuff. And it is great. And so many kids, too, that don't maybe want to go off to college. I mean, there's good paying jobs in this, and that's really exciting. So I think this is a jewel of Saline.
Yeah, thank you.
I don't have a question, but I just want to say thank you to Mrs. Stemmer for everything she's done for the SWC, because I've been in accounting and entrepreneurship and then marketing with Ms. Stemmer, and last year was a blast. And I like how, all the clubs that are with all the consortium classes, I find that really cool because it gives the people a group and find a common interest among individuals that want to pursue something. And with that quote at the end, I really like that because ultimately the SWWC classes have found my passion for business and then is something I want to pursue in the future. So that quote was super cool, and thank you.
Well said, sir.
Thank you, Mateo.
Mr. Gerby.
Okay. First of all, I want to say to you, Ms. Stemmer, that I have heard incredible things about this transition and how incredible you are, and so thank you for your diligence and work. I am an incredibly supportive individual also of these students, and I hear you talk about credentialing, and I think about that's in the AP exam, right? Like these students, 72% of them, right, are credentialed or they're ready to go, right? They are ready to work in our businesses, in our places. Like these are good prospects for jobs. So I'm going to give my own little plug to the work-based program because I am all behind you on that all the way. So I have two questions, and they are this. So you talked about $263,000 that was allocated being a grant. So my first thing is, can you give me a quick synopsis of how that grant process goes? And then you said we've had multiple years in a row. Is that a normal amount? So that's my first question. Or do you want to do them one at a time?
No, go for it.
And then we are moving our cosmetology program over to SMS. I'm just wondering how that planning process is going and all of that, because I'm really excited for those students and those families. So
absolutely. And I might lean on Emily a little bit, but the grant, so we're on our third year of it. Is it not, I wouldn't say it's normal, and it might be coming again this year, so we don't know for sure. And Ryan Rowe is the one that applied for it, through last year and at the ISD. So now that he's at the WISD, he's now allocating and disseminating, the funds to the appropriate districts. So it's for, non-millage based counties. And so as long as we're, not on a vocational millage, we can apply for that grant. So when that changes, then the money stops, but there's obviously other ways of being funded. Do you want to speak to anything? Do you think I
think you covered it well.
Okay. Okay. So anyway, and is it a normal amount? I mean, I think it was a little less this year than it was last year. Is that true?
It varies year to year. It depends on how many applicants there are, how much the total money available is.
Right.
Yeah, they do require that we spend 50% of the funds in the top 5 state programs. So that's how that was chosen this year. So.
Which I was, so, you know. Oh, yep. So cosmetology, it's ironic you asked because we sat on I sat in on a meeting on the design of that. I think that's obviously super exciting. It's going well. I just spoke to Lane Signs, the instructor tonight, I just said, like, well done with doing the homework. I know the architect, the team, the architects and, you know, the engineers and so forth just said it's one of the easier transitions of, you know, planning things out. And I just say that's because of Steve Lucas and Aline Signs for doing the background on it and saying this is what we would love. And then I think it's just, I can't say it enough, like, we need to be mimicking what's going on in industry to our classroom so that we're setting these kids up for success. So like they are creating that environment to, you know, duplicate what they would find in a salon and just making that transition smooth for when those kids, so they feel fully prepared when they go out to their jobs. Yeah, super exciting. Thank you.
Okay, I was fine until you said cross the stage, so I'm gonna. As you all know, Drew is in the SWWC, and I will say that I'm sorry. It's been the most influential class that he's taken. And that's saying a lot because he's had a lot of really great classes and great teachers. Prior to your class last year, I don't think Drew knew what he wanted to do or who he really was. I think initially he thought he wanted to be president, and I'm glad he's not still pursuing that path. We kind of joke about that, but I do think that when he joined marketing, he found his passion, as you mentioned, and the experiences that you started and that have continued this year through the marketing class, but also through DECA, have just set his course. He's going to internationals on Saturday. I'm driving him to the airport. I did say I think Mrs. Stemmer should be getting up at 5 in the morning to drive you to the airport, but I'm going to do it.
Many years I have. Many years I've been on that trip.
I know you have. But I think that, you know, many of the things that have impacted him have been the day-to-day experiences in the classroom, his DECA experiences, the field trips, and I will say that the connections that you've made through your alumni even have really allowed him to see where his passion is. That field trip, he is not a Lions fan, much to my husband's dismay. He is a Packer fan, and that is always exciting on Thanksgiving. But that field trip really impressed him and really started having him think about the possibilities for his future. So he is in the business college next year at Youngstown State, and he's pursuing a degree in marketing with a minor in social media and campaigns. And so that started with you. Drew was recently asked who the most influential people in his life are, and he did not say his mom and dad. Although maybe he said that without saying, but
that's obvious. Just for the record, they never give us any credit.
He said Mrs. Stemmer, Mrs. Mayo, and Mrs. Warren. So I just thank you for the way they poured into him, the way that the program has grown. He could have graduated this semester, a trimester early. He could have left, and he did not because of marketing. So because of you, he's also enjoying Mrs. Tomosic one more semester or trimester in pottery also. And apparently she said excelling there too. So it's just been a great experience. I know I heard from the students tonight in every single classroom. We heard from those tonight too, but it really, the SWWC, I don't even know that we know the full impact. And I just think that we see alumni coming back. We see we just see like the tentacles of what started here. So thank you for continuing to pour into our students, and especially for Drew.
Thank you. It's very, very meaningful. My own daughter's in 3 of the classes. I mean, that's how much I believe in it. Like, you know, we talk about hands-on and just getting that, again, when you're sitting in an interview with somebody sitting next to you, what's going to differentiate you? And you have a story to tell. Like, I led something, I did something, it's impactful, and we just don't know. But glad he enjoyed the Ford field trip, and I have students working out for the Lions, and so that's that connection. And we talked about doing a DECA reunion, and then networking. What an awesome networking opportunity for the last 12 years to bring all these people together. So, good luck to Drew.
Oh, I'll just say too, Youngstown does not have a DECA program. Drew is planning on starting it. The business college does not have classes on Friday, so he is taking that up as his Friday project.
No.
So he might be coming back to get in touch with you. One last thing that I did not want to forget, I'm glad I wrote it down. Can you tell us about, because I love school-based enterprise after I read the 23-page paper and edited it. So can you tell us about the upcoming sale and how the community can have access to that sale to support these projects?
Yeah, thanks. So the SBE, also known school-based enterprises, also known as the EDGE. So we're on it's a cycle, so it's a 5-year cycle. So the first year, this is a DECA event, a national event. So a lot of students get excited because they can write this paper and really talk about the operations of running a small business. And so, every aspect of it. And so the first year is you have to talk about maybe 8 different segments, all the way down to selling and promotion and operations and hiring and all of that. But then every year after that, they choose 3 standards that you have to write, and then it starts over. So the first group that gets the first year, they're charged with writing an 80-page paper. And so they're like, oh man, they got gypped because the next person only has to write a 20-page or 25. But nevertheless, so that's the EDGE, and May 6th, I believe, is the event, and it's going to be held out at the stadium. Again, that's another going to be one of my passion projects, is maybe looking at trying to get an off-site location for the EDGE. I think that's another opportunity to have a storefront in our community, since there really is not a lot of competition. So that's kind of I saw this role as, hey, this is where I saw the need in the classroom, and now I can execute and make that happen. And then just build community around that. I think the community would support that. And so it is a little cumbersome to check in at the school and, come in, and people don't know, I don't want to see my kid, I don't want them to see me, blah, blah, blah. But if we had some type of storefront in the community, I think that would be successful. But May 6th, I should know the time. We have the flyer, on our desk, 1 to 7, but come out and support. We're looking, get some great Saline swag and, support an awesome program. I might be biased, but.
A little bit. We keep running into each other out and about, and your folks have come to EMU recently. Vasilov was joining them, and there are other grants that are out there, and you and I talked about the Bessie Hoffman facility as well. So we'll keep that conversation going, and if I have questions, I know where to find you.
Yes, thank you.
Love the storefront and the community idea. As you know,
Thank
we
you.
have some storefronts that could
use
some occupants. I know nothing about rent or anything like that, but I think that's a fabulous idea, because it is underserved in our community, and I always see people posting, where do you get the Hornets gear? And I think it would be wonderful, and what better type of project than a school and a city to partner in support of students. And it is hard for people to get into the school, and we want to be safe and things. So love that idea. I love the work-based learning idea. This is incredibly important. It happens in college too, of course. So support it there. I think it dovetails nicely with a point that Steve was making last night at the superintendent's circle dinner about internships. Or maybe Jackie, maybe you made that. One of you made it. Okay. Whoever said it, it was a great idea. And I think it reminds me of the conversation, because I was at your meeting last week, And in my breakout, we were really talking about how they wanted more speakers in the classrooms, people who were actually doing the work of the courses and coming to share those experience and storytell with the students. And that's the perfect complement to then open the door into the businesses for the speakers. So when they come and you have someone from XYZ company and it's in CAT or, you know, whatever, and then that's perhaps the entree into that partnership for work-based learning. So I would just encourage you to think about how do you publicize the need for speakers and what talents and disciplines you're looking for, and then begin to build that really strong funnel for your network.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm sorry I couldn't be fully present tonight. This is one of the presentations that I really look forward to and have a passion about. So I would like to follow up later with you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
Thank you for all your work. I really
Yeah.
enjoyed seeing your presentation and the teachers retiring. It sort of was an advertisement for, like, you could play it in your careers in you could play it in your careers in education, because I mean, what an impact! That's the kind of thing you can't.
Right, testimonials.
Yeah, that's the kind
Yeah.
of you can't. There's no price you can pay on that kind of life-changing education and those educators. So, anyways,
Thank you.
bravo.
Well, thanks for honoring them tonight. It fit in perfectly for our little discussion here. So I appreciate that. And I just want to go on record for saying thank you to everyone, the transition from the classroom to administration. So thank you. Lots of people that have had my back, countless reasons, and I feel very comfortable going to anyone and asking any question. So I just want to say thank you. Good.
Thank you very much again. Appreciate it. Most presenters rarely get applause, but well done. I'm going to hand the gavel, so to speak, over to Secretary Miller, who is also the chair of the policy committee, and we're working on the second readings of these policies.
So we do need to probably, as a policy committee, start there and then move forward. But there is some question about first reading, second reading, action item, discussion item, etc. So the way that it fell for this meeting is that it is the second reading of these 4 policies that are up for consideration. And should someone feel moved to motion for them to be considered, that can happen tonight under action, but they are discussion items for now. If not, they will be action items if approved tonight for, or if there's no motion tonight, they will be action items on the next agenda. So first, any questions about the 4 policies that were on discussion for the last meeting and our second readings tonight?
I can do it too as part of, I mean, whatever. Brad, you want to do it? Doesn't matter. Or Lauren? Sure. I'd like to please make a motion to approve the following policies as an action item for this evening. Policy 5113, Policy 8300, Policy 0141.1, and Policy 6152.
I support that.
Thank you, Susan. And I would just add, now that it's been approved to discuss, that I think to Jenny's point, it is a good thing to kind of discuss, but these seem clean, no comments. So I think there's no reason to move forward with the business of the district if we can. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, so I guess you're president, so you call for the vote on the motions?
Well, I hearing
I'll hand it
no
back to you.
further discussion, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Great, thank you very much. Policy committee and board. Sorry, just for my own records, who moved and who seconded? All right, thank you. Great, administration, board updates.
Yes, thank you. I'll start with Trustee Stebbin mentioned this earlier. There was a foundation event last night, a superintendent circle, which was great. Supporters of the foundation were at Max with myself, Jackie, Jennifer was there. And I also just want to thank Wally and Cindy McNeil. They're the owners of Max. They've been doing this for years, and they're very supportive of the school district and the foundation. And it's nice when you have your, premier restaurant in town, helping and supporting in so many ways. And so I just want to publicly thank them. Also, we got some results in from First Robotics in Houston, Texas this past weekend in the World Championships. They didn't win at all, but they did have a really strong showing. I heard that back from Chris Myers today. And the kids did really well and learned a ton as usual. Also, some of you heard that our esports teams made the playoffs this year, and I got a result that I wanted to read that I thought was great. And this is from Coach Vasilov. Said, he's happy to announce that 2 of our Valorant teams made the semifinals of the playoffs and had to play each other yesterday for a spot in the finals. So now we have Saline High School students Caleb Summers, Dominic Matthews, Jack Friedveld, Lucas Bay, and Jackson Stahl of the Saline Valorants on top. They're playing in the championship game tomorrow at 4, and he sent a link out to us, and I'm gonna be tuning in to watch that playoff. So that's great. And then also Steve Vasilov was up for Coach of the Year in his first year, and then Griffin Berwick, Marco Matthews, and Michael Dooley made the all-state team. And I think that's pretty spectacular for the esports program that just started. So that was great. And then my final comment tonight is a great accolade for a couple of our high school students. And I'm just going to read this brief letter that Ashley Mantha got. So it says, Dear Mrs. Ashley Mantha, Athletic Director of Saline High School, the Michigan High School Coaches Association, a professional organization of high school and middle school coaches and athletic directors, has recognized a senior athlete in your school as one of the MHSCA's Rich Tompkins Multi-Sport Athlete Award state winners. Thank you for nominating your athletes. Then it goes on to say the Rich Tompkins Multi-Sport Athletic Award recognizes the accomplishment of student athletes who have excelled in a variety of athletic, academic, school, and community endeavors. These many student athletes were nominated by school administration based on their 3 seasons of interscholastic athletic participation in 4 years of high school and their accomplishments as a scholar and as an active participant in school and community activities. So not only did we get 1, this is the first time we've ever gotten 2 of the, in Class A, both girls and boys. So Jordan Wickham from Saline High School, Class A girls, and Peyton Wyden at Saline High School, Class A boys, have won this award, and that's unprecedented. And it sort of follows up with, again, Saline High School being named the 2024 #1 ranked school for athletics, which means you offer a lot of athletic programs and your kids excel in the classroom too. So I just think that pairs nicely, and we're really proud of them.
I just have one quick update. Tomorrow is voters registration for all the seniors who are 18. We'll be doing it during lunches. It's been really great to work with Mr. Gumnick to set this up with the volunteers. So yes, I'll get Drew and Lainey on that.
And I only have one update as well. Keeping with the SWWC theme, the manufacturing students and some CAD students had Skills USA like this past weekend, and some of them placed the 1 states, and they're going to go to nationals in June, so that's pretty cool. And it's cool to see all the cool club awards and athletic awards that have keep coming up and are nonstop throughout the year, so that's cool.
So I just want to kind of give a shout back out to the automotive tech, Tim Tomosic and David Meller, and the impact they've had in so many people's lives. But in just the whole agenda today, the superintendent recognitions were really impressive. the scheduled reports, the threat assessment is really important, and I appreciate what they did for us and giving us that information. And then the Southwest Washington Consortium and even the student showcase is all really impressive today.
Heads up to Ben, at a request from a school board member, we're going to sort of start at the other side. So this is also a heads up to you, Dr. Gold.
Yeah, I wasn't entirely ready, but I am looking forward to going to the college and career night tomorrow night, and that's pretty much what I have tonight.
I'm going to go later.
I'll go next. As Steve mentioned, we enjoyed the Superintendent Circle Dinner. Thank you to the Foundation for Saline Area Schools, and thank you to Wally and family and chef, because it was a wonderful meal. That annual event is you take a moment to thank a group of donors and kind of talk about what's going on in the district, and the table conversation was very lively around all of the building that's going on at the high school with regards to our STEAM center and also the strength and conditioning. So that was very exciting. I mentioned when Kara was up here that last week I had the opportunity to attend one of the meetings that's twice a year with the SWWC. I was asked to participate because I was a guest speaker last week also for all 4 sections of Intro to Business. So it was a wonderful opportunity to bring my life at Michigan Ross into the classroom. They asked that I talk a little bit about the school, a little bit about what we have to offer students, and then I did some interactive science-based activities where you talk about self-leadership and then tie that to high-performing team leadership. So students could do one individual exercise, and then we did a team exercise. I was super tired at the end of that day. I'm tired when I go to work, but I was really tired at the end of that day at the high school. So thank you to the teachers who are teaching at Saline High School. Appreciate you. I wanted to say a very happy birthday to Tim, and I wanted to say a very happy birthday to Jenny. It's essentially tomorrow or next week. So I just wanted to wish you guys a happy birthday. And I also really enjoyed the beginning of our session tonight with our retirees. I really liked hearing from their former students, and we all talk about our why, and it was on full display. So yeah, Kara should bottle that and get those video testimonials. So thank you.
I was just going to note that I'll be in Lansing tomorrow at the behind-the-scenes tour of Capitol, and reminder that next Tuesday evening I'll be doing a talk again about for anyone interested in running for school board at the library.
I just wanted to wish good luck or best wishes to the DECA team that is traveling to international competition next week, or sorry, Saturday. It's in Anaheim, California. So they are headed there. We can all send our best wishes to Mrs. Warren, who is the chaperone for the group this year. She's, I think her title is technician for the marketing class. And we have several kids participating in competition. Drew is just one of them, but Sarah Youssef, who we've met before, Grace Warren, Erin Hudeman, who we've met before, and there are 2 kids who are attending the conference, and I am lost on one of them. Noah Musson is one of them, and there is another young lady going. I can't think of her name. If I think of it again, I'll mention it. But wishing them the best of luck and safe travels as they represent the Compass and all that it includes this weekend. I also had the opportunity to attend via Zoom, which was very nice and very convenient, the WISD budget presentation, and that was very informative, and there are a number of things that they'll be reaching out to districts this year. There's a millage renewal and some other things that are supporting especially special education in the county and shared services. So that was something that they discussed. Also, it was nice to see, because in my life it's not happening everywhere, but there is a healthy fund equity balance at the ISD, which was nice to see. and gave a little peace of mind. And then I also last Wednesday attended our DEIAC meeting. Most of the meeting was spent on an update from Ryan Kerr and Jackie Martin on our on the work that is currently happening in the district, and there are some things that some things that are in progress and some things that are happening. One bit of information that perhaps will be shared at a later date too is that they've been working with the folks at Power School to update the information systems to be more inclusive and more representative of students and their families and their identities. So thank you for that work.
All right, so first of all, I recall my own opportunity to go to Anaheim for DECA as a kid, and I have to admit, it's one of my the best memories I had of being a high schooler and all that. So thanks, and I'm gonna give a shout out thanks to my dad, who was also my DECA advisor. So there we go. I want to give a shout out to our robotics team for nationals. I know that's a big deal in Houston, and I want to thank the Auto Tech and FFA programs. I also agree that it was fantastic to see it in action and to see, our whys, right? These are individuals who have acquired skills and have then given back, and that as a teacher, that's what we dream about, right? Is having students who do that. So really cool. I'm excited for Mr. Meller and Mr. Tomosic. Mr. Tomosic, being a Manchester resident, your family means a lot to me. But I'm excited for you too. You've earned your retirement and all of that. But it's a big loss for the district. I want to give a special shout out real quick too to Peyton Klein was mentioned. She's representing Manchester, so yay, Peyton Klein. All right, so a couple of other things. Heather Dew continues to amaze me with her talents. I was reading today. She'll always kind of have a special place in my heart because I was fortunate enough to be invited when we recognized her as Support Personnel Person of the Year. And then she took advantage of the Parapro to Teacher Transition Program. And now she is the Michigan Department of Education's nominee for RISE, Recognizing Inspirational School Employees Award. So wow, continues to amaze me. But what more can I say? Thursday night, I told you guys that there's a Troon prohibited language item, right, or a prohibited language seminar. I will be there. So I have prioritized that and been able to. And luckily, my kid had a bus to Bedford, so that helps for track. So anyway, long story short, I will be able to be there. I welcome anybody to join me, but I do plan to attend on behalf of our team. Climate survey, right? I got about 3 emails in the last week reminding me to do it, right? And I'm going to remind everybody I finally did my climate survey. I would recommend and ask everybody to do it. As you heard at our last meeting, it really does inform the things that we do. And then I guess the last thing I'd say is on April 16th, they had an open forum presented by the MASB, and I attended it. It was via Zoom. And I had 2 kind of takeaways from the meeting. Number one, they spent a lot of time discussing cybersecurity and ransomware attacks. And so I feel pretty confident in our staff's readiness, and I feel very confident in our tech department and what have you. But I'm mentioning it, and I guess I do have a small wonderment. It's this: do we have a specific plan in place for if a cyber attack was to occur? I know we've implemented things like 2FA, we change passwords frequently, but they shared some pretty sobering stories about school districts that have encountered ransomware attacks, and it was a significant pain in the neck, to say the least. All right. And then the last thing, they also, I received some professional development regarding just hiring practices and things of that nature, and I'll plan to share out some of those things with my board colleagues because it's professional development that I would love to share. And yeah, I've said enough. So thank you to everybody out there.
The student that I left out is Naya. Do you know Naya's last name in the marketing program? Stetson? Okay,
Oh,
so she's
Stetson. Sorry.
Stetson. Okay, so she's also participating with Noah and Thrive Academy, so didn't want to leave her out.
I'll see you there Thursday, Brad. Comments from the board or updates, this is your chance to share.
Yes. What I wanted to add to the agenda, and I have to speak here now, so this is now my focus, about what the process is for the board to contact legal. You know, if there is a legal concern or complaint of a superintendent or a board member, you know, when a serious concern is brought to the attention of the board, if there's potential liability issues for the board as it impacts the district, the community, and if one or more board members ask for legal input, how does that happen? And so this has been a discussion before about, I mean, even last year, about board members do have that autonomy. The board has autonomy to consult legal counsel. But, you know, for example, telling a board member that if they're bringing up a concern that's been brought by a community member, but they were just thanked for their email, if a board member, you know, brings it up, as we have a duty and, you know, ethics to ask questions, not just here at the board table or before a board meeting, you know, violating OMA. So why would a board member have to go through a public complaint process for that to be addressed when it's not necessarily their complaint, or a board operating procedure on board superintendent relations. So I don't think there's issue with a board member asking questions and, you know, asking that legal have input so they can determine next steps, but somehow not even necessarily my complaint, just bringing up a process issue, but somehow now I'm the one who, and trying to be ethical, I'm being, not even having the opportunity to have that discussion. So yet again, we don't know how that occurs. And so, you know, investigating a board member, like, who makes that decision? I would think the board would, but, oh, if we don't have process, I guess we don't, you know, do anything about it. So, you know, I wasn't gonna speak to the issue. I had no plan. It sounds like multiple board members were talking about my email. And simply in the email, I said if we could have, since there is confusion about accountability here, that, you know, we can publicly discuss and decide this as a board, whether you want to talk about the specific issues that, you know, come up, or if, you know, we want to talk about who does that, right? I think shutting down conversation of a board member who's trying to do the right thing and requesting that we do the right thing, you don't shut them down. I mean, this is ridiculous. So there you go.
Is that it? Thank you. I am happy to address policy 0172.
I don't, are you,
What? Oh, I
what-
thought you were. You're not done?
is this your, did you not do
No, this is
comment
me
yet?
as the president of the board saying what, happy to address this.
Oh,
and
I'm happy
next
to talk more
steps,
about it,
but no,
too.
no. First of all, well, just since you brought it up and you want to talk about it, If you would like to set a discussion topic about how we go through policy 0172, which is that the Board of Education, and you were very specific, and I appreciate that, employs an attorney. We're happy to discuss the process. And the same with policy 8325, in which an individual board member can also get legal counsel. We can talk about those processes as well at a future board meeting.
That's not the process for a board member.
Let's put it on the agenda. I know you attempted to this evening, but we weren't sure what the topic was, I don't think. I don't know why you didn't get support then. So I will happily make sure that gets on the agenda. If you send me the topic, we'll discuss it. And
Well, go ahead and put it on the agenda because you've seen it.
No, I was not allowed to. You had asked me not to go back and forth with you to ask questions via the email, so
Because
I
of
chose
OMA,
not.
yes.
So I chose not to, and
But we're talking about it now. I'm asking for you to put it on the agenda. That's it.
If you could clearly write to me and let me know what the "it" is that we want on the agenda, let me see if I understand it, and I'm happy to put it on, and Betty can even make comments for the next agenda. What is the procedure for the Board of Education to employ an attorney to represent the school district? Have I understood that correctly, what you're asking?
We have, like, what do you mean employ? Like, we have,
To employ an attorney or law firm to represent the school district or board in actions brought for or against the
yes,
district.
that's a policy, yes.
That's the policy, and you'd like to know the procedure.
Yeah, I would hope all the board members would like to know that, but
Right. We won't discuss it right now, but I'm happy to make sure that that gets on the agenda, and I'm sure we'll all be ready to discuss it in 2 weeks or whatever, 3 weeks' time. Thank you. We are at I think we're at the public comment section. Oh, consent agenda. Oh, the consent agenda. The consent agenda is listed in this agenda and will not be read aloud. The motion noted will allow for the authorization of all listed items without discussion unless a member of the board requests that any one or all be considered individually. I'd like to entertain a motion to authorize the consent agenda as printed.
So moves, Debin.
Devin moves.
Support Miller.
Miller moves. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you. So 7-0. So let me scroll down to items on the next agenda. Dr. Lodge.
Yeah, we for our superintendent recognition next time, we'll be honoring the Washtenaw United Girls Hockey State Championship and Boys Swim and Dive. And then for reports, special education update, and then following that theme of special education millage, like Trustee Miller said, we're going to be talking about the special education millage and the WISD budget resolution.
That, you buried the lead. That would be the best presentation of the evening.
That's because you're doing it.
That's because I'm doing it. No, I'm looking forward to it. I couldn't make it that evening, and I asked for the presentation. They gave it to me with volumes of notes, and I thank you very much, Jenny, for being there. It's very rare that people go, but trustees and superintendents go. Right. A member of the public may
Michael, I'm sorry. I just had one thing. I just wanted to remind you and let the board know that I will be absent from the next meeting. So I can go back on policy, but you'd have to, I think it would be Jenny who would be vice president if you were ill or had to step in. So I just wanted to kind of raise that. I don't think he plans on not being here, and I don't think he plans on being ill, but I did want to raise it. I have a mandatory work trip out of state, so I will be there.
And since it's going to be on everyone's calendar, October 22nd, I can't make it that night, so I'll be. I gave you 6 months and 2 days
I can make
warning.
it that night.
Yeah,
So we're good.
thank you very much. We so a public comment. Sorry for the lively banter. Members of the public can speak to us for up to 3 minutes, or request to be scheduled on the agenda of a future meeting. I have in my hands Lindsay Anderson is first, followed by Tiffany Alexander. On deck. 1 minute warning with the yellows.
Hello? Okay. Hi, my name is Lindsay Anderson, and I have 2 children who go to Saline Middle School, one of whom is transgender. I used to be a member of the Saline Transgender Task Force when we were working with the district. We had a hand in helping to put together the policy, the transgender and non-binary student policy. And we have been working with the DEIAC since then to help craft guidelines that are going to make that policy more operationalized within the district, both for teachers, administrators, and students. Our parent group met with the DEIAC. We got a lot of great feedback from teachers, students, and other community members. One of the things that came out of that meeting was the updates to Power School. Thank you, I couldn't remember the word Power School. About making Power School more inclusive. It was a really great example of community organizing where many stakeholders were meeting at the same time to decide what was important and what was needed so that this policy can do what it is supposed to do, which is protect students and make school safer for them. The thing that I heard come up multiple times tonight was prevention. This is what those guidelines are really there for, is to prevent instances of transgender and non-binary kids being bullied and being in environments where they don't feel safe. When we talk about examining threats, just to bring it back to what you were talking about tonight, sometimes when you are doing threat assessments for something that seems like an offhand comment, when those offhand comments are happening throughout the day, they accumulate to become something that can feel like a pretty big threat to that student. And so if the environment of they go class to class and maybe it's different students saying similar things, that student is dealing with a threat load that can maybe equal something that's more serious. I realize my time is almost out. I also wanted to just talk about that we often feel like we are adversaries of the school board sometimes, when really we strive and want to be an asset to you. We know what our kids are going through. We deeply, deeply care about creating environments where they can be safe, and I think we are on the same page as that. When we come up here and we have to bring problems before you, I know it's not fun for any of us. And so sometimes the reaction can be that we are a threat to the status quo. And I just want a better working relationship between us. Thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay. I appreciate that. Tiffany Alexander is next, followed by David Hayward, parent.
I wanted to talk about the same thing. I want to talk about how we have anybody in this district who attempts to bring a legitimate problem is put in a situation where it feels hostile and adversarial. Even people who come here who are supporting the policies that you have enacted and are asking only that you see these policies through are still treated with hostility. We fear for retaliation on our families and our children. And the reason we have that fear is we see retaliation on families, on children in this district all the time. There are people who will never come up here and talk to you because of that. And I think you know that. I have been disrespected. I have been defamed. I have seen people accused of being lying when it's in black and white. We get promised the same thing over and over and over again. We get pleasant smiles, and we're doing this and we're doing that, and then it doesn't happen. And then when we say, hey, you said this, but you're not doing it, then suddenly we're bad. And in my case, I'm the angry black woman. Well, I am a very, very angry black woman because I'm really tired of these disingenuous conversations that is supposed to be part of civility, but there's nothing civil about a dishonest conversation. Ego does not belong here. Fragility does not belong here. This is not about us, and it's not about you. This is about the kids, and it's not just about the kids who are flourishing. It's also about the kids who are struggling. The problems we bring you are real. We're not making them up, and I think each and every one of you knows that. These are real problems with real kids, with real families. And we can't safely come to you because we don't know how we're going to be treated, dismissed, humiliated, made to sound like a bunch of radicals for simply bringing you what you know to be facts. Then the facts get manipulated and twisted. And if you attempt to do a FOIA, God help you, because they will pad it for thousands and thousands of dollars. Because that way they can make sure that they can keep things quiet. If you want to help your students, you have to hear the voices of the marginalized telling you that you have these students who are doing great, and these are amazing kids with amazing families and amazing teachers. But the kids who are struggling, they're amazing too. And they need your help. And you're not giving it because you're not elevating the voices of those who are marginalized and struggling. You're pretending we're crazy.
Thank you, David Hayward. On deck is David Rosenfeld, resident.
I'd like to talk about the social media policy. About 2 years ago, the district adopted its current social media policy in order to allow it to moderate offensive content on its social media feeds. Recently, there's been a certain reticence to exercise this policy. I think that's incorrect, and I've made that point to the board and to the superintendent, but that's somewhat neither here nor there. The rationale that was given was fear of First Amendment lawsuits. Ironically, my own post urging the district to follow its own policy was moderated. I've been told today that happened because the district was using an AI auto moderation tool. My comment right now is to point out that I think that if the district is indeed worried about the free speech implications of what it does on social media, it needs to strongly consider whether those tools themselves are appropriate and legal for its purposes. Because on the other hand, if the district can algorithmically moderate my posts, why is it not also able to moderate a genuinely offensive post? And again, following on my theme from before, I'm not trying to make some kind of abstract theoretical debate or nitpick a point. Allowing hate speech against students, staff, and community members, which is what is going on the district's social media posts, is actively harmful to those students and staff and community members. And when the district allows those things to stay up, especially when it's moderating other things, but just allowing those things to stay up in general, that can come across even as tacit support for those ideas. This is just something that we need to do better.
Okay, my name is Dave Rosenfeld. My pronouns are he, him, his. I'm a Saline resident, and I'm the proud parent of 3 former Hornets, including an amazing 16-year-old transgender son. The main reason I'm here today is I'm hoping to get some clarification on what's happening with the transgender student policy guidelines, which I know your DEIAC has been working on so hard and so diligently for the past several months at least. Until just a couple days ago, I was actually planning on attending today's meeting in support of those guidelines being presented to you, and possibly even answering some questions in my capacity as one of several parents of trans students who has provided feedback for the guidelines. But then I discovered that even though the committee has an excellent draft ready for your review, they did not make it onto tonight's agenda for reasons that are not entirely clear. But whatever the reasons are for the delay, I sincerely hope that it is just that, a slight delay, and that you do fully intend to review the guidelines which your own advisory committee has prepared, and to provide feedback, allow them to make any necessary changes, and then ultimately support the guidelines adoption by the superintendent and the rest of the administrative team here in Saline. The reason these guidelines are so important is because not only have trans students and parents of trans students at SAS expressed concerns over the implementation of the trans student policy in the 2.5 years since it was unanimously adopted by this board, but teachers, administrators, and even Dr. Lotch himself have all admitted that the policy has not been uniformly consistently and or adequately implemented in all buildings and all classrooms in the district in that time. And to my knowledge, in those 2.5 years, the district has not yet developed any other guidelines for the proper implementation of the policy. Now, I know Dr. Lotch made mention at a recent board meeting that he is hoping a Neola representative will help develop some guidelines for this non-Neola policy that would be consistent with other Neola guidelines. And also, perhaps, that the DEIAC has employed different processes in developing these guidelines than the district has used in the past. But whether or not those things are true, it should not be a reason for the district to decline to seriously consider adopting the guidelines developed and recommended by its own DEIAC. And I say that in part because I know for a fact that the committee members who were responsible for creating the guidelines did absolutely everything right. Not only is everything in the draft guidelines evidence-based and supportive of best practices in education, as well as Michigan state and federal law, but the drafters sought the feedback and incorporated the input of all appropriate stakeholders, from transgender students and their families, to teachers, to administrators, to transgender community members, to student and community organizations that support both educators and transgender students, as well as others. If you fail to seriously review and then ultimately adopt and or recommend adoption of some form of these guidelines, you will be doing a grave disservice to your constituents and, more importantly, to our kids. Thanks for your time and for your continuing commitment to equity for all students at SAS.
I feel very sad about coming back up here. I just have one question. I'd like the board to follow up on what Trustee Stepp asked Assistant Gunther at the question about the threat assessment. Thank you.
Viva Rosenfeld, thank you.
I wasn't going to get up and speak, but it is really hard coming to these meetings and seeing how minority groups are maligned by this board. The transgender policy seems like it was just a flag to hang up in the district, like, hey, we're doing it, we have it, but we're actually not going to do anything. You created the opt-out policy. Apparently you already have guidelines for that. That was just created this year. Where are the policy, the guidelines for the trans policy? DEIAC don't seem to have any teeth in what actually you all do as a board. Again, another flag. We're doing it, but actually not really doing it. I'm curious why one of the presenters can't answer a board member's question. Is that how children are handled in this district? My question to you all is, what do you do when staff are the threat to children, and how are they actually handled? For a moment, I need you to put yourself in a parent mode and think about how you would feel if you and your child are going through what your board peer is going through. If you can't understand and see what's actually going on, you're heartless. You talk about threat assessment and how threat assessment is lowering school to prison pipeline. which is systemic racism. My question to you, how many white children have been suspended for running in the school building? And then my next question is to you, how many black children? I loved what the presenter quoted about what you're passionate about is what you should do. Clearly, you all are not actually passionate about supporting DEI, which is what most of you ran on, because you're actually not supporting those kids and protecting them. You're only uplifting kids that are already being supported through the groups and the clubs and the sports that you all want to show off. Let's support the kids that can't be seen and don't have voices.
The next meeting of the Board of Education will be held on May 14th at 6:30 p.m. right here. I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn the regular Board of Education meeting of today at 9:42. Wait.
Motion, go ahead, Jenny's got it.
Miller.
Support Steppen.
Jenny squared, all in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Great, thank you. And Jennifer squared.
You can, they're clearly attacking
Well,